The lecture is donation. What I will tell you now, I recommend only to extremals. Don't think that it's common for all. I don't offer this for everybody, because for somebody it may be too hard. At that time, I rented a flat with 2 rooms. I had an old cupboard from the old owner. You know, an old stuff of wood of the Soviet times. It was usually at the wall, situated at the wall. I found a board in this cupboard. It was a very wide board, the true Soviet Russian board. I do not know where they took it, but it was a great tool for austerity, okay? My daily routine was the following. I got up in the morning about 6 and had pranayama. Then I went to my first training in the morning. Then I came back home, cooked breakfast and had breakfast. And then I waited. It was easy during the day. In the afternoon I had practice, it was bearable, but in the evening when I came back home after the evening practice, I had an hour of austerity. I sat down respectfully on this board. I underlined nothing purposely in order to practice seriously, and I suffered. I sat in Padmasana. It was not always Padmasana. Sometimes it was Siddhasana, but mostly I sat in Padmasana. I had the rules, austerities in the evening hours. There was sweat and tears. It was August and it was very hot. Accordingly, in the evening I opened the window. But the fact that the leg which is under when you sit in Padmasana, one leg is higher, the other is lower, is always sweating harder than the above one. And I had got used to the fact that when you got up of this border there, always was a puddle of sweat. The sweat was dripping. Well, I didn't care about this. One morning I got up. I had practiced quite good in the evening, and suddenly I saw that the puddle is on the spot. I didn't understand what it was because it usually evaporates in the night. So the sweat evaporates and there is nothing left. But there was a puddle on the spot. I touched it and found that it was greasy. It was greasy sweat, and therefore it did not evaporate. But on the other hand, try to understand me. I had a goal. That is why I tortured myself. I had a number of questions that nobody could answer. There were no sensible books, and my sister tried to take me to psychic. I see certain things that other people don't see. There are 2 ways. It is okay or you should go to the mental house. Well, I listened to some foolish things and decided to do yoga myself and to look for the answers myself. This hard effort gave me this certain result. As a result, I have managed to take my consciousness out of the body and to watch my second body, and I found the answers to some questions which fundamentally changed my life. That is, I saw something much more serious than the real world, to which we get used to. Then I went to find teachers who I could be taught. But it wouldn't be without that period when I just suffered an hour every day. I repeat again, every day from morning to evening, no weekends. I had such 3 strict approaches to my personal practice. I had pranayama in the morning about an hour, and then it was Gayatri about an hour and 15 or 20 minutes, something like this. Ah, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't just bear the pain. And I'm not a masochist to sit on the board and to bear the pain. I opened a book, a religious one. After the 3rd minute, I understood nothing, but I read. I pretended I was reading and enlightening. How old was I? I just came from the army. I was about 22, probably. I recommend you that if you really want to reach some results, you should make efforts. It is not an easy way. We will talk with you today about what is easy. If you really want to reach a result, you should set a goal that you will need to overcome yourself, and not in a year, most likely. What you overcame in the beginning is just a cake compared to what will be when you become a yogi and begin to practice. Tests that will come later will be serious. I am telling the truth, and the truth has such a quality that it frightens cowards and it inspires the brave ones. If a person knows where he goes, he will move, and all cowards fall off, and basically it is for the best. And those who feel certain potential will go on anyway, and they won't be scared, so it is okay. I will explain in short. Since my childhood, I see some things that nobody sees. Once I remember we drove in the car with my dad in the Caucasus, and I asked him if he saw what I saw. He said that he didn't. Since then, I never asked anybody. I understood everything. And then I had to find the answer. You see the reality that others don't see. Yoga helps to find the answers to these questions. For many years, I have accumulated a hunger to find it out. When I found out that there are austerities and practices, I thank the gods that the teachers were more or less adequate. If at that time it was Iyengar yoga, I only can imagine what would have happened to me. I would raise my hands and legs during 10 years. Concerning pranayama, it was a 12-story house, and I didn't care about this, and there were no variants. Today it will be quite an interesting lecture. So, if you are planning to get on the path of yoga, whether you like it or not, some difficulties will come to you. And the difficulties you face on your way are almost all the same. So, about these difficulties we will talk. And we also discuss the methods of overcoming these difficulties, how you can overcome that, what theoretically will want to stop you on your way. You probably practice yoga not the first year, but by the way, let's make the statistics. Who of you practice yoga less than a year? Raise your hands, please. Okay, thank you. Who practice yoga less than half a year? Are there any? Well, and 2 years? From 1 to 2 years period? Well, thank you. From 2 to 3 years? Oh, I can see we grow. And then more than 5 to infinity. Are there any? Yeah, well, I'm very happy. The majority who raise their hands that practice about a year will have some certain difficulties. Ask you a question. Do you have any life difficulties in yoga? Laziness. Let's write them and analyze by the components. The first word I have heard was laziness, wasn't it? What else? Family, yes. Motivation. Injuries, right. Well, let's analyze thoroughly.
Еще какие моменты?
What are the moments? Work. Let's write alone. Yes.
Давайте напишем кредиты, да?
More difficulties, willpower. Well, it can be attributed to laziness. Conditions, housing problem.
Можно к лени отнести, в принципе. Условия, слушайте, квартирный вопрос, наверное, да? Ну ладно, условия.
A good teacher is a relative concept. What will be the first 3 years, it is not what will be the next 5. Once you outgrow your teacher, then you will look for a new one. What else? What obstacles do usually appear? You are seduced, right? They offer to drink tea once again. Okay, friends, what else?
Ладно, друзья. Зажирели, да? Друзья, еще что?
Well, actually, nobody has said the main obstacle. Well, addictions can be certainly written, so-called larvas. You are eaten by larvas. What else? Finally, we have come to the main obstacle, your relatives, the most important obstacle in the vast majority. No, family was said, but in another context, meaning no time. Your family will return you to the reality. They say that is not enough being nirvana. You should stop and go digging potatoes, for example. Let's write family, relatives.
Семья, родственники, да?
In my opinion, at least it is what I can see. Family is the number one problem for those who are just taking the first steps. All the other factors are for those people who are on the path but has already stood firmly. So to say, they have passed a certain test and try to move on. Then they experience all that we have listed. But your relatives is the number one problem in the vast majority of people, because they will try to change you, to impose their point of view, and you start to argue with them. Sometimes you can make some foolish things when you start treating your family members. You start telling them about vegetarianism and what is bad and what is good. Your compassion starts showing and you start to change them in the right direction, right? Violently, well, not quite catch up and make good thing. Yes. The main problem is when you start to impose your point of view to your relatives. I can express my humble opinion on this topic. There is a good Russian proverb: a prophet is not recognized in his own land. It is in the broad sense. Because the main gist is that your parents can never treat you as a wise man. With the rare exceptions, but no matter how old are you, you will always be there baby. Moreover, the baby who always gets into all sorts of trouble. Therefore, your yoga is again another your trouble. For the first time, they will say that you do something foolish. Then the word sect will appear in the lexicon of your relatives in 4 months, and they will try to change you. As experience shows, it doesn't make sense to do that, to treat your relative. If you are a still young man and your parents watch TV for 2 or 4 hours a day, more often there is no sense to talk about. There are form templates and there is no sense to speak with them. It is the same as to prove something to the TV screen glass. The effect will be the same. The more you talk, the more you will be tired, no other way. But if your parents have some common sense, so try to bring to them the idea that you have decided to make an experiment. Tell them to give you 6 months to live as you want. Tell them that they had made you do some things you didn't want, or you do the whole of your life. They were drilling you, and you did all they wanted. You even had graduated from the institute they wanted you to study. But now you want to be a vegetarian and practice yoga. Tell them to leave you alone and try to understand that if in 6 months you won't cope with this, then you would talk about how to go on. But sometimes just try not to impose anything. This is my experience, certainly. You can give them some literature to read, but no more. In the beginning, you should be very careful, calm and loyal with your relatives. You should respect them maximum if it is your family, your parents, your father and your mother. You should understand that everything in this world is very difficult, especially with your close relatives. My mother, for example, is an avid Christian, but nevertheless, she makes a very good thing for me. For 20 years, probably, she strictly gets in front of her icon and she prays for all my relatives and for me in particular. She asks your Christian God for help. And this is the support anyway. Doing this, my mother really protects her children the way she can. No options. That fact that we ideologically are not compatible is actually not a problem. She does her job, I do my job. However, I realized that to argue with somebody is pointless, and I recommend you approximately the same thing. Try not to escalate the atmosphere in your family with your relatives in any case. Try to be as tolerant as you can be with them. In the future, everything will be okay. Perhaps when this hardship will pass, maybe during the first 2 or 3 years of the fight when they try to turn you back. The same situation is with friends, but it is because friends tend to disappear. Whether you practice yoga or not, your friends will change every 5-7 years. It is very rare when people stay friends more than 10 years. Usually 3, 5, 7, maximum 10 years. Interests change. What are friends? Friends are those who together live fast life, so to say, have some interest to spend time together. If you have this pastime, there is an interest and we are friends. If this interest disappears, we are not friends anymore. Because there is no basis. You know you need something to do together, drink together or smoke or go fishing. Well, what are other activities, so to say, to burn the time and often not in the best way? That is why sometime later you will meet very different friends. They will be updated, and friendship with yogis is a completely different level. But let's come back to the parents. Don't argue with your parents, please. Try to explain your position that you make an experiment. For example, let me try that. Nobody ever died from yoga, and you'll be fine. They even may believe you. The main thing is to leave you alone for some time. Sometimes I receive some messages when young people complain or that their mother prepares them ignorant food. I can't define now, but from time to time I receive some messages like this. I eat food at home, and it seems to me that is not gracious. What to do? What can I tell a such person if he doesn't understand what to do? Just cook yourself or find some conditions to have another kind of food. If you don't like something, change the reality. To make your mother gracious in order to make her cooking you gracious food, it's absolutely absurd. Therefore, in this case, just leave them alone. If you are able to live separately, it's ideal way to live your life. You are all adult people, so it is the best way. So, has anyone heard that it is no use to argue with parents? It is not necessary to impose your point of view. Why do I say this so quietly? Because the family is a very complex structure. I can't probably explain many nuances. You won't believe what I am going to say. And if you don't believe, maybe it is possible that you believe in the future and you will understand everything. I'll just explain. It's no sense to explain some things now. Just imagine I tell you, look, do you see this triangle? You answered yes. Then I will say that actually this is not a triangle. This is a circle. And you say, well, what kind of a circle? This is a triangle. But to see that it is a circle, you will be able not immediately. Now you have already labeled the certain concept and the situations. And later in the future, even if you are close to the realization that it's actually a circle, I hope you understand that I absolutely aphorize. Because of this label, you will not understand important things. But it happens very often that your parents do you only good if they act incorrectly, or if you have a brother who is an alcoholic or a drug addict. Believe me, it is only for good. But for you, it can be probably unclear. Your family is a certain energy cell. If there is a larva in this house or in this family, then it should take someone's energy. Do you understand the logic? If it won't eat you, it will take on someone else, and the one who will feed it will only help you. There is a metaphor or a proverb that if there are two mice in one box with a poisonous grain in it, one of the mice have to eat this grain. Do you understand the logic? Therefore, if one eats it, the other still might be alive. And our thinking is the following: the person around us behaves incorrectly from your point of view. You automatically want to correct them in their life. It is not always right. Here's the fact that I was told about the family in the future, that perhaps many years later you begin to understand how energies move. You realize that people around you degraded for, and you sit so calm. It's even hard to believe.
Они не расти помогают. Они на себя берут часть того яда, который мог бы вам достаться. Понятно?
They take part in this poison that you could take. If you are destined to withstand 5, 7, 10 years of yoga, then maybe you will move steadily. If you have people who you can help and to whom you can bring a certain good, then your life will have an entirely different meaning. All those who helped you in person or in advance when you thought that you were hurt, they really helped you. If they were not in your life, then you would have achieved nothing. They will receive a certain part of the gratitude that you have now. That is, you will already work for them. That is why there exists such theory, to leave all as it is in your family. There is even a picture mostly shown in the monasteries in Tibet, but very rare in India. It is called Shamatha. Different schools have different interpretations of it. Don't you have anywhere this picture, Volodya? Can I show it well? Well, just I show you this picture and I will explain it short. There is a small valley, a house and a river on it, and the climbing to the mountain starts. There is a winding path which has three curves, so to say the six chakras respectively, and then the flight begins. And there are some men in this picture. The first leaves the house, crosses the bridge over the river. Then we come to the first chakra, the first test. The elephant and the rabbit run with him on this level. No, the rabbit will be a bit later. There is no mind at the beginning. There is a monkey near the elephant, respectively, then the monkey goes away. They rise as a crowd until the elephant is completely white and becomes one with the practitioner in the end. In different traditions, it is explained differently, but the average explanation is that you will have a certain test on your chakras. And if the monkey is your body, the elephant is your mind. And first time you like to follow the path of practice playing, only then the mind will understand that it is actually erased. If you really move, you'll replace the mind which have formed on this life, on this planet. Maybe you will connect the mind which you have had from life to life. That is, you will bring your wisdom from your past lives. Your mind and your set will not be needed, it will be replaced. Shamatha explains a lot of things. First, to leave your home, maybe not in the literal sense, not in the physical, but in the secondary. That is, try first to find your way. Possibly in the future, if you are able to fix on the path of yoga, your relatives will understand everything and you'll be able to talk to them. But in the beginning, it is almost impossible. So, well, any questions or additions concerning this topic? Is everything clear with the family? Is it clear more or less? Okay, let's go. Let's leave larvas for the dessert because it is the most difficult topic. Moreover, it is also not so clear with the larvas. It is very complex. I don't know what I will tell you concerning this topic. In short, friends are the temporary phenomena. They are not friends for too long. Once you have lost some sort of passion that you had shared with your friends, nobody will be friends with you. You have friends because of interest. If there is an interest, friendship will be. No interest, no friendship. So take it easy. Some friends you used to drink together will go away. So this is okay. And to impose on someone, if the person is already alcoholic, to impose that you know you are really an alcoholic, as the experience shows, is not the most reasonable thing. I never do this for the last time. Though I was very stubborn and I always argued trying to impose my point of view. Then I realized some other things. If I have a kilo of energy for today, who should I spend it on? Arguing with an alcoholic, or maybe to do some other more or less reasonable thing, and for that person who understands the information 10 times fast. I have the tools of communication with the other people who practice yoga in the club. Therefore, I will spend my time on yogis, but not on alcoholics. But if you will teach yoga, not adequate people will come to you the first time. Be ready for this. This is a very hard challenge. I have not seen exceptions. Moreover, not just non-adequate people. One guy told me one accident, I was stunned. In the localities near Moscow, this guy has a big sports center where he teaches yoga. He talked that one day they practiced yoga, there were about 20 people, and suddenly the priest came with the cross from the neighborhood parish. There is a church near this sports center, and it was said that yogis do yoga, and this priest came to drive out demons. I have not faced such situation. I even had no idea of something like this. It is fantastic, but it turns out that it can be.
Оказывается, может. Может даже такое быть. Нет, нет, там тяжелые случаи, подмосковные города.
The suburb cities are usually very wealthy and the priests are motivated for their flocks. And when the flocks thins, they try to find any reason who is to blame. In this case, the eye fall on yogis. I don't judge. The priests do very good things for certain old ladies. The old ladies just love them. Let them to deal with the old ladies, no problem. So, there are usually some problems when alcoholics and drug addicts come to you. You will see your own weak places that you can have in the reflection of the other person. This other person will come to you and drive you crazy. When a man comes to me, I understand who he is from the point of view of the energy immediately. So when I see that the person is a demon, I even will not talk. But the new teachers will have to talk to non-adequate people. That is, they will listen to them and so on. Therefore, develop your energy in order to listen not with your ears, but from the point of view of the energy to scan a person. We even had such precedents when we went somewhere. We left the club for someone. They had some sort of problem in the club, moreover, with neighbors. Once a neighbor came to fight. Terrible, but that's exactly the problem the teacher who was in the gym at that time.
Проблема того преподавателя, кто в зале в этот момент находится. Такая как бы энергия притягивается. Соответственно,
let's come back to friends. I recommend you being friends with yogis. It is very good relationship. I do not understand any other relationships. Interests are different, quid pro quo, and the yogis have the only form when you need nothing from the others. So to say, it is very good to move together to development. And we do sometimes something together, and this is great relationship, very good. It is the common interest. Conditions. You have these conditions that you have created yourselves. If you say that you have no apartment, no room, and you live with the other 5 people with 3 dogs. Now, I have this karma, so how can I practice yoga? But friends, who do you blame? What were you supposed to do in your past life that you have such conditions in this life? Why so? Because you didn't move and burnt your life. Therefore, in this life, you have nothing material. There is another problem in the material aspect. It is your greed from the past. If in the past you could do something positive for others, you didn't do this and save for yourself. Greed towards anyone results into poverty, or to the fact that you live in poverty in this life. I give you an example. There is a box for donations. You can donate and people donate differently. Someone can give 1,000 rubles. Someone can give 50 rubles. I understand that we all have different incomes, and I absolutely don't care about who gives and how much. But I will tell you a story. At the time when I met my first teacher, I discovered a strange thing. When I left my teacher, I left money only just to come back home in my pocket. But I repeat again that I have never been financially burdened. I knew that when I come to the city, I was able to earn money. I had no fear, but I do remember when I gave money, I was surprised why I should give it. I didn't understand this with my mind. I just did, and then in the future I have already realized I have this quality from my past lives. If you have the opportunity to donate, this option should never be missed, because the money that you left in your purse will disappear. You can save it as you can, but they will disappear 100%. The only question is what they will be spent on. And of course, if you can invest the money into something more or less positive that will grow and do good to other people, this is of great importance. If you're a Vaishya in this life and you work as a businessman or a craftsman, for example, and you can't practice yoga, but you want to have adequate conditions in your next life, you have had adequate conditions, find those who can be sacrificed for the benefit of the development of these people or the society as a whole. This is very important. Learn to give all things you have. This is just your conditions in which you are now. Of course, I exaggerate mentioning 3 dogs. When people complain how 5 of them can share the bathroom, this is your greed from the past. Try to change yourself in this life. I suggest you. I do not insist on it, but I'm sure it will be good. After some number of years, I understood that this law works. To find a teacher you can donate is extremely rare case. It seems to me that I told you this story last year. Many years ago, I was told by one friend. It was about how they brought money to one ashram.
Есть лекция, да? Ну, наверное, не все слышали, но, в общем,
One man had some crazy money, and he was advised to invest it in some good thing and to an adequate teacher.
Ну и, соответственно, когда человек занимался самосовершенствованием, ему порекомендовали вложить, как сказать, в нормальное дело, нормальному учителю, который будет.
They went and gave this sum of money to the teacher, and he told, because he was there and he saw it with his own eyes, how the skin of the teacher receiving this money became gray on the face immediately. This money immediately reflected on his aura, immediately. Why? Money, to put it mildly, smells bad. You can believe it or not, but it is the truth. When they say that money doesn't smell, it is not true. Money has a certain karmic load. I can tell you a lot of stories about this, but I think you should obtain your experience yourself. At least I got you the message, so think with your own head. Try, if you have some budget, to invest some sum of money in some good projects every month. Everyone will choose what sum of money, but try something to sacrifice. This is the treatment of your Manipura chakra. It is very difficult to give off anything to people who live at the level of Manipura chakra. For most of people, it is almost impossible. For Vaishya, the system of sacrifice is the output from the level of the Manipura chakra. I am often asked the question, what to do when you have the appetite, when people always want to eat and they are hungry. They can't stop, their appetite is very strong. This is the problem of the Manipura chakra. You cannot believe me, but if you donate money, the appetite will disappear. Do you think there is no connection? From the point of view of the energy, it is interconnected, because as long as you have used to pull everything to yourself, your appetite remains. Moreover, not just the appetite, but a very strong appetite. Once you start to learn to give of things, you change the tendency in your inner world. I have another problem now. I need almost to put it down the time eat,
Дел много,
no time for
нет некогда
eating,
есть.
seriously, too busy.
Поэтому тем
So
людям,
for
у которых
those
вот с
people who
маникюром
has
проблемы,
problems with the
учитесь жертвовать.
manipura, I
Нет,
recommend to
сказать,
learn
нет у меня
to
финансов.
sacrifice.
Учитесь
You can
делать тогда
say that
какие-то
you
дела.
have no money, so just do something
Энергия
else.
отдавайте.
Give your
Находите
energy,
какую-то
find
форму
some form
служения.
of serving.
Что-то
Do
делайте для
something
развития
for the
общества.
development of the
Как этот
society.
механизм работает, я вам
Now
сейчас
I will
объясню.
explain how it works.
Хотя это будет сложно рисовать, у нас здесь все... Ну ладно, мы лярв друзей затрем. Но у нас лярвы здесь, вы что, их нельзя трогать. Мы к ним еще вернемся, они важны. Вот есть. Вчера
Yesterday
кто-то положил
someone
в этот
put
ящик
50
50 рублей.
rubles into the box.
Вот
Here
в эту
at this
точку.
point.
Это 50
These
рублей.
50 rubles we will
Мы
try to
постараемся
use
с
as
ребятами использовать
efficiently as
максимальный эффект.
possible with our guys.
Это или
We
будет
will spend
выпуск
it for
какой-то
some
литературы или
literature. We
что-то. То есть
have
у нас
special sum of
специальные
money
деньги есть, которые...
for it.
Как вам объяснить? Ну, наверное, стоит объяснить. Вы
Do you
понимаете
understand
карму
the
человека,
karma
у
of a
которого есть
person
5000
which
рублей,
has
а у которого есть
5,000
50
rubles
рублей?
and have
Вы
50
допускаете, какая у
rubles?
них карма
Can
на
you
данный
understand
момент?
what sort of karma they have at the moment?
5000 рублей
5,000 can
может
be given
пожертвовать
by a
человек,
man whose
у
energy is
которого
more or
с
less normal
энергией
from
и с
life to
жизнью живет
life,
все более-менее
so
нормально,
he
поэтому
can
он и в этой
practice
жизни
yoga in this
йогой
life,
занимается,
and
еще и
he is
материально
even
обеспечен.
financially
Это крайне
independent.
редко,
It is
потому что это
extremely
две
rare
полярности, они
because there are two
существуют посередине.
polarities and this
Понимаете, в
man
чем
is
суть?
in the middle.
Потому что
Do you
если у
understand the
человека с
gist?
материальным все очень
Because
сильно,
if the man
хорошо,
has no
то с материальными
problems
особо не обременен.
financially, for
И у него с
example,
йогой
when
будет
he
очень
is
плохо.
burdened with the
То есть он не
tangible
сможет
assets,
йогой
he
заниматься.
can't practice yoga.
Понятно почему,
He
нет?
will be able to
С
practice
другой
yoga.
стороны,
Do you
как говорят,
understand why?
бессеребренник, то есть
Not?
человек, который
No?
йогой готов
On the other
затираться и
hand,
заниматься,
as
это
it
ну
is
вообще
said, a
ну,
poor man,
материальный
a
ноль
person
совсем.
who is ready to
Такой
practice
человек,
yoga
который
but who
занимается
has no
йогой, еще и
money. So
находится
the
в
person
материальном
who
достатке,
does yoga
это
and who
именно
is
золотая
financially
середина, которая
independent
подразумевает
is
рост и человека,
precisely
и
the
людей вокруг.
golden mean, which
Так вот,
implies
тот
the
человек,
growth
который
of
дает
this person
50
and the
рублей,
people
это
around.
самые
So the 50
ценные
rubles
деньги. Их
given by
нужно
the man
вложить
is
в
the
максимально
most
пользу
valuable
этого
money
человека.
needed to
Лучше
invest
всего
with
это
the
или
maximum
литература,
benefit for this
или
person.
мы
The
вкладываем
best way is literature, or basically we
в
invest
продвижение
it
в
in the
основном.
promotion.
Вот
For
сейчас
example,
продвижение ауры
now
у
we
нас каждый
promote
месяц
our
минимум 5000
club
рублей
Aura, and
вкладывается.
it is
А
minimum
подготовка вот этого
15,000
пола, вот
rubles
той
every month.
столовой
Why
50
are
с
you
лишним тысяч
laughing?
вложили.
I
Чтобы
think
новый
to
сайт
put 50
ауры
rubles
сделать.
into the box. A
70 тысяч
sophisticated
разработчикам,
female
плюс
mind.
20 тысяч
Actually,
тем,
there
кто
is
это
a lot of
сделал, 90
spending.
тысяч. Вот в новый
Why are
сайт
you
ауры мы
laughing? We
вложили
spent about
месяц
50,000
назад
for
практически.
the
Ты
preparation of this
высчитываете, по
floor
15
and
тысяч
that
минимум
dinner
каждый
room.
месяц
We
было
pay
просто будем вкладывать. А если люди будут
70,000 to the
приходить на следующий
developers
год,
of
то
the
что
new
будет?
site of Aura
А что
plus
вы, как бы, сколько вот
20,000
это
for
дадите?
those who
Первый
did
год
this
ауры.
site. We
а,
almost put 90,000 into the
Когда
new
первый
site
год
of the
только
Aura a
начиналось,
month
это
ago.
хорошо. У
Plus,
меня
we
есть
will
хороший
invest
знакомый,
another
который материально
15,000 every
обременен,
month
так сказать,
until
и он
August.
вкладывал
But if the money
каждые
will be
8
coming
месяцев
and we
по
will
20
invest the
тысяч рублей.
next year too.
Посчитайте
Why
сумму.
are you looking at
Это
me so
вложено
surprised? The
в
first
рекламу
year
для
when
того, чтобы
Aura just
собрать
began,
человека
thanks
ауры.
God that I have a good
Это для
friend who
кого
is
делается?
financially burdened,
Как вы
so to
думаете, для
say,
вас?
and who
Нет.
put
Ну, конечно же,
20,000
для
rubles
вас.
for
На самом
8th
деле, это на
month.
втором месте.
Calculate the
На
sum
первом
and
месте
you will get the
преподаватели,
sum
которые
for
здесь будут преподавать.
advertising.
То есть
For
мы
you,
сейчас,
of course, for
преподаватели,
you. In
мы
fact,
вкладываем
you are
деньги
on
в
the
то, чтобы
second place. The
преподаватели могли
first thing
находить
is
опыт. Это
teachers who
самое
will
главное.
teach here. We
А вы, конечно,
invest
вы получите
money for
определенное
the
благо,
teachers,
но,
first of all. This
как
is
вам
the most
объяснить?
important thing. And of course,
Ну,
you will
короче,
get some
преподаватели
godness.
хорошие. Поэтому
But
в них
how to
вкладываем деньги.
explain
Эти
it to
50
you in
рублей,
short? The
скорее
teachers
всего,
are more
сейчас, ну, я просто
important.
знаю, что их
So
там
we
растиражат
invest
в
money in
ближайшее
them,
время.
and these
В
50
ближайшие месяцы еще,
rubles we
скорее
will
всего,
invest
вкладывать
in the
будем в
advertising.
рекламу.
In
С
the
тем,
near
чтобы
future, we won't invest
августу,
into books.
возможно, на эти
We
50
invest
рублей,
it
кто увидел
into the
рекламу, приехал,
advertising
получил
in order
определенное
to
благо, а он на
someone will
следующий день,
see it,
на следующий
come
год
to
его
us,
жизнь
and
начнет
receive
потихонечку
some
меняться.
goodness. And the following year,
Какое-то
his life
принесет
will change
благо
little
тому
by
человеку,
little.
дал эти
What
50 рублей.
goodness will be brought to
Был
the
человек
person who
какой-то,
gave
на
these
основании
50
этих 50
rubles?
рублей
On the
его вектор
basis of
жизни
these
изменится. По
50
своей карме
rubles,
он будет
his
жить как
vector of
нормальный
life has
человек, в
changed.
принципе.
According to
Да?
his karma,
Мы
he could
вложили в
live
него эти
like a
50
normal
рублей, у нас,
person,
так сказать,
yes?
есть инструмент
But we
интересный.
invested
У
in
нас есть
him
инструмент
50 rubles. We only
помочь
have
вам
the
эти
tool
деньги
to help
реализовать.
you to
С
make this money work. On the other hand, it is the commercial break. Friends, donate more to the box and you will be happy. I would have smiled if it wasn't true, but it is true. I just know that because it's really so.
Помочь, вот это понятие в
Have you ever heard about such word Garudakshina? It means help in India. It is when a yogi or just a good person comes to a teacher, and the teacher always has a certain number of students and gives him money. He sacrifices, so to say. Do you understand the mechanism further? This money is used for the ashram development further for a certain evolution within the walls of this particular ashram. What do you think about if the evolution happens, how it will influence on the person who has invested this money? Now I'll give you an example, a very specific and easy to understand. Please tell me, who has parents who can listen to you about the law of karma, your stories how you became vegetarians and then raw food eater? Are there a lot of such parents? One hand, two, three, four hands. Okay, thank you. And now tell, who has parents who won't listen to you? Well, is the issue over? I will tell you a story now. There is a camera in front of me. I'll tell you the story of this camera. I have one friend. He lives in Germany. He works very hard. He collects, I hope he used to collect the glove box in the assemblage department.
Может быть, собирал. Надеюсь, что собирал. Я уточню у него, кстати, нужно написать, узнать. Но вот 2 года назад он собирал перчаточные ящики, по-моему, это он бардачок, да, знаете, вот закрывается.
He deals with plastic and rubber. It is almost impossible to breathe. But it is half a trouble. They work there in shifts. In short, he has the night shift. When after a night shift he comes with those square eyes, and he wrote that he wanted to put money in some project, and if we had something. I said that yes. We had a project we shot on a common camera, but it was very uncomfortable because you need to put the button every half an hour. We needed to buy a camera that would be with the card to record. It is clear why with the card and not with the cassette, because it is such a headache with cassettes. And just 2 years ago, these cameras with the cards first appeared, 170,000 rubles, something like that. And suddenly the camera, which costs 95,000 rubles, appeared. The only camera in this price range still that gives a normal shot. I told him that we need this camera. He could give 2,000 rubles, which he gave to us, and we added the rest. So we bought this camera with the cards, batteries, and it came out about 110,000 rubles. So it was midsummer 2 years ago. And we had a seminar, and we took this camera in order to make a good film, in order to make good for the other people. But there was a problem. Our good boys wet the camera. The camera was out of order. We put 100,000 for the but the camera doesn't work. Can you imagine? We came back to Moscow, the camera is examined, but it's not a warranty case because we have wet it. It became moldy and they can only change the whole board. And this is another 50,000 rubles. I did not understand. What a madness. I never had such situations. My car works for 20 years and it doesn't break. So, in short, I realized that it should not be so. It turns out that we had a yoga teacher from Vladivostok who knew about our problem. She suggested sending her this camera and then sending with a sailor, a friend of her, to Japan in order to fix it. It took about 3 months to send it in the case in the good hands to Vladivostok, and then it was repaired. It costs $300 in Japan. It was returned and it works. It records the teachers we teach. It records everything. So to say, it works for our teachers.
Все записи, которые в просмотре, они вот именно с этой камеры. То есть камера трудится для преподавателя.
Do you know what happened to this guy? His parents began to listen to him. His mother became a raw food eater. His parents evolved. He is overjoyed. I will call him today. Most likely, he has even found another job. Are you talking about Zhenya? No, it's not Zhenya, it's Harry. Well, but Zhenya has his own tests.
Ну, по-моему, он не работает уже. Женя ушел, да, Женя сейчас тоже все хорошо.
And I had a lot of such cases in my life, when it is clear that a man putting in something that gives goodness, minimum to the world around. Do you remember the story about the man who gave 50 rubles? Do you understand that if a person begins to evolve, he cannot live only for himself? He will for sure shall share knowledge with other people who are able to develop. And then he starts to share. Therefore, the investment which you can do in the beginning will bring you maximum goodness. It is in fact, I say once again, you are all in different financial conditions. I didn't even plan to tell you about these donations. I smile every time because I live in Russia. We have returned from the Crimea, Ukraine recently. Of course, it is a terrible situation there. It is clear. It wasn't even enough money for petrol. But that's okay. Try to understand that we do this not for money, but the logic of people is that the person should have some money to come, to live, and to go back. If the person can donate 5, 7, 10% of his budget for this trip for knowledge, what result will he get? What do you think? He lived 95% of his budget and 5% he donated for knowledge. What will be the effect? Right. He came for 10 days, lived 10 days. It was possible to come for 1 day, and it would be the same. Well, I'm just kidding. Actually, everything is much more complicated. Try to understand that the yoga camp aura is not for earning money. I'm much more interested in teachers. In order to obtain some experience, so they can share knowledge then. This is an activity when a new teacher may have a lesson for 30 person, for example, and this is a very good motivator for development. I just know it from my own experience. This is the help for them and for those who will survive, because they will certainly have some difficult. Then everything will be very good. There is even a special lecture on this topic. I'm always accused by greedy people concerning ill children and give help to them. Probably you have not watched this lecture. I often have to talk about this. Of course, if you have, I'm not afraid to say the following. If you have a sick child and a healthy child, it is better to invest in a healthy child in order to make him sick. In order not to make him sick, it's much more important. But for Vaishya, the greedy people, they are good, they are great. But if to compare Vaishya's greed with the greed of Brahman, so from the point of view of Brahmans, Vaishya are greedy. It is a priori. I explain the logic of Brahman. Why the homeless became homeless? What do you think? What karma had they accumulated that they have now such a result? Right. If you help a person with a negative karma to heal his body now, will it help him change his soul? Probably not. Therefore, Brahmans are recommended not to cure the material body, but to change the world, those who are still alive and healthy in this world, that in the future they will not become sick. That is to say, to invest in the future, but not to treat. There are some people who are recommended to treat those who are sick. But Brahman is recommended to invest in healthy people, especially if you have a child who is destined to live effectively. Then to invest in him is a big plus.
В чем проблема?
If you can make this child a good man, it is good. That is what karma will earn if you raise an adequate child.
Если воспитаете ребенка адекватным,
The topic is difficult. How should I answer and not to offend anyone? For Vaishya, it is recommended to treat and to help everyone. For them, it is important to get rid of their self. Do you understand the logic?
понятна логика? Но если у вас есть
But
килограмм
if you
энергии,
have a kilo
вы
of
можете
energy,
потратить на
you
ребенка,
can
который сейчас
spend it
больной,
on a
килограмм
child
энергии.
who is sick.
Но,
But
пожалуйста,
try to let your
попытайтесь
energy be
допустить,
put
что
on
этот же
5
килограмм
healthy
энергии
children,
может
so
помочь
that in the
5
future
здоровым
they
сейчас,
do
чтобы
not
в
become
будущем они не
sick.
стали больными.
Do you understand the logic?
Понятна
Because
логика?
prevention is
Потому что
always much more
профилактика во много
effective
раз всегда
than the
эффективнее, чем
treatment
самолечение.
itself.
Лучше
It is better
предотвратить
to
какую-то
prevent
беду,
some
чем
troubles
решать
than to
проблему
solve
беды.
problems later.
Вот в чем
It
логика.
is not
Это
greed,
не
not
жадность, это не
fascism. It is
фашизм.
Brahman's
Это,
logic.
как сказать, логика, которая находится в рамках мышления Брахмана. Понятно?
Clear? Do you
Поэтому
have any
ищите вопросы,
questions,
дополнительные
comments
комментарии.
on this topic? Let's go
Поехали дальше.
further.
Условия. Ну,
Conditions.
условия рассмотрели.
Donate
Жертвуйте,
if you can.
если это есть возможность. Несите
Bring
также
knowledge to
знания
the
во имя
others
учения.
in
У
this
вас все
life.
изменится.
Everything will change
У вас
in your
вопрос был?
life.
Или вы
Do you
руку
have a
поднимали?
question or just raise your hand?
А, хорошо. Хорошо. Из технических
Kriya
крия-йога.
Yoga.
Вообще йога, конечно, помогает. Вам
You need
нужно
to
перевести
transfer your
энергию
energy
с
from the level
уровня
of
манипура до
Manipura
уровня
to
анахаты.
Anahata level at least.
Пример.
For
Представьте,
example, you
вы
loved
полюбили
someone.
кого-то. Все
Everybody
люди
has
знают, что это
such
такое, да?
experience.
Когда вы
You know
любите, вы не
what
спать
it
не
is.
хотите,
When
ни
you
есть, не
love
хотите, вас ничего
somebody,
не
you
интересует.
do
Вас
not want
интересует
to
только любовь.
sleep.
Но
You do
обычно,
not
когда человек
care
любит, у
what
него
it
аппетит
is. You
сразу
are only
напрочь снимают.
interested in love.
Замечали это, нет?
But usually,
Это
when a man
именно
loves,
работа на
he
харчакрах.
has
Как
no
только энергию
appetite
выключили, все,
immediately.
вас
Did
уже
you
манипура
notice?
чакра не будет
This is the
интересовать.
work of Anahata chakra. As soon as the energy was pulled out, you will not be
Кунджала
interested
есть
in
хорошая
the
практика,
Manipura
но
chakra.
лучше пойти к
Kundala
нашим
is a very
ребятам.
good
Рома
practice.
специалист по
Here's
кунджалини. Да,
Roma,
Ром? Ром,
the
подними руку.
specialist in Kundala.
Нет, ты не
Roma, raise your
специалист? Володя
hand.
специалист?
No, you are not a
Володя может рассказать.
specialist. Is Volodya a specialist?
Подробно и доходчиво.
Volodya can tell it in detail
Работа.
and clearly.
Почему у вас
Why do you
работа?
have
Почему не
your work?
работаете сейчас, как вы думаете? Да я
I
понимаю, что
understand
трудно.
that you have taken the loan,
Но
but
почему вы
why did
взяли
you
кредит и
take the
теперь
loan
работаете?
and now work?
Потому что
Because
рекламу
the
показывают. А почему вам
advertising was
показывали
showed.
рекламу, в которую вы
And why
поверили,
did you believe
взяли
it and
кредит, а
took a
теперь
loan
работаете?
and now work?
Почему это
Why
произошло?
did it happen?
Кто помнит,
Who remember the
как
name
называется
of a
фильм
French film
французский
about
про рекламщиков,
advertisers
как
as
они
they corrupt
развращают
society?
общество?
99 francs.
99
You are
франков, совершенно
absolutely
верно.
right. I recommend
Рекомендую,
it
кто
who
еще не
hasn't
смотрел.
watched it yet.
И
And there is
немецкий
a
еще
German
фильм есть
film on
отличный на
this
эту
topic.
тему. Но я,
I
к сожалению, не
watched it
смогу уже
a long
вспомнить,
time
давно очень
ago.
смотрел. Может, подскажете. Фильм «99 франков». Скачайте,
Download this
пожалуйста,
film and
посмотрите.
watch it. It
Там
shows
на самом деле показано
approximately
примерно
10%
10%
of the
реальность и
advertising world
рекламного мира.
reality.
Потому что, по
Because
крайней мере,
the
то, что в России,
advertising
когда
world is
рекламный мир,
much
это еще
tougher
жестче,
in the
чем то, что
world
в
than in
французском
Russia.
показано. Да. Не смотрел, не знаю. Есть еще один фильм
There is
немецкий.
another German film. The
Суть в том,
gist is that
что
the director of some very
режиссер
popular
каких-то
TV shows
телепередач
makes a
очень,
competition
как это сказать, очень популярных,
where
где
the
суть
gist
этой
of this
популярности заключается в
popularity
том,
is to
что
choose for a girl a donor
выбирают для девушки извините, донора.
Not to be said having the children here, and they compete between who come faster. They have a resounding rating, and this man sits on drugs. This is a very good film. It is about 10 years. Finally, he understood everything and realized that he cannot degrade society anymore. And he made a revolution, he finds resistance, and he struggles with the TV show program, which is for not clever people. Why so? Because it is the order for such people on TV. It turns out that there are families which are set a special TV which has feedback. And such families are unhappy, to put it mildly. And as a result, the so-called rating is formed depending on which channel is watched by this unhappy family. And the rating is not good since not clever people basically have TV. So it is the logical explanation. Do you understand? And the revolutionaries changed the rating, having changed all these boxes in the houses. And they began to show films about development, about the nature, some intellectual films, and people began to develop. And some people didn't like it, of course. The film is old, about 10 years probably. In fact, the media have a very strong impact on how you live. I just wanted to say this. According to your karma, you came into this world where you have been influenced by advertising. Thanks God that I was born when we didn't have such advertising. And thanks God I began to practice yoga and refused watching TV when there was not so much advertising. Otherwise, I was made the same user, I guess, if I watched TV. Although I never had a big wish to watch, but in fact, because of your bad karma, you have what you have. If you like a slave should go to work, friends, in your past life you just waste your time. The resources that you had been invested nowhere. Yesterday, when we were talking about how to prepare to your past life, unfortunately, I forgot to tell you three things. From this life, according to the writings, you can take with you only three things being in the human body. First, you can take your wisdom. This is the ability to distinguish correctly the reality in front of you. If you have wisdom, no matter in what world you can come, you will be able to live adequately anywhere. This is very important, because if you have no wisdom, but dullness, in any world in which you will get, is likely to be very small chances to live adequately. The second thing is your karma. Moreover, both negative karma and positive karma. Moreover, what karma which you will receive as retribution, or that karma which you will receive as welfare. It is important to understand that your ability to the adequate life is made by your past karma. If you help to go on the path of self-development in your past lives, you are helped in this life. It is all interconnected. And the third thing is your experience in practice. Experience in yoga is probably better to say. Just only these three things you can carry with you in your subtle energy body in the future. What does it mean to have experience in practice? Have you noticed that doing an asana, you just know how to make it? You remember how to do it. Did you have this? Those who had, raise your hands. Look, it's cool because it is the experience of the practice from the past life. Moreover, was I asked a question about 6 yogas of Naropa from your audience? It was the question about the 6 yogas of Naropa. I told you that it was a complicated topic. You can consider it in a different way, and even if you have the test of 6 yogis of Naropa, but if you don't have a teacher who can explain the important moments, you will receive the negative result, even trying to practice according to the texts. And the second thing, there are certain things inherent only in you. If you practice, you will understand what, where, when, and how to do it. There are such nuances that you will never find recorded on the paper. It is only transmitted on your subtle level. If you practiced, you save this and you will recollect it with your consciousness and you will move on. You'd practice. That's why tomorrow I will give you a lecture.
Я вам завтра прочитаю лекцию, наверное, про учителей. Как? Потому что
if you try to do as the teachers of the past lived and practiced and developed, so each teacher needs to find a receiver or receivers, 1, 2 people who can give the maximum exclusive things from the point of view of self-development. So, if there is a teacher who has millions of followers, why does he choose only one to whom he gives some exclusive things? What do you think? Okay, we will discuss this topic tomorrow. All your material wealth, all your material fortune, all your amount of emotional things, sensual things, no matter you dance or you sing or you having fun, will stay in the material world. You won't take all this. No matter how many lovers or loved ones you will have, how much good things you will have that everybody wants, you leave everything in this world, and only these 3 things will go with you. There is an important thing. Are there people for whom to see the mistake on someone's experience is enough?
Жареный петух не клюнет, хотели сказать, да? Я понимаю вас. Ну, пока, надеюсь, вы таких не встречали. Как раз-таки многого достигают те, кто учится на чужих ошибках.
If a person will regularly step on the same break, he can move neither in yoga nor in anything else.
Но это в лучшем случае даже. Хорошо, у учителя завтра, надеюсь, мы с вами поговорим на эту тему.
Your work is due to your activity in the past. If you live for yourself, trying to burn your life for yourself, you have the result that now you work like a slave. You are born at the level of Vaishya, and you are exploited. I should draw these 4 categories, otherwise you will not understand how the law of karma works. Смерть, Веся, night, sorcerer. I give the Slavic names. In India it is respectively Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatri and Brahman. The only difference is the degree of selfishness and the degree of involvement in the passions. That one has 1% passions. This has 50%. This 30, this 5 or 10, whatever. An adequate sage tries to go away from passions and to put all his energy into some projects or students or some things connected with the development, because he knows that he was reincarnated with the conditions that he became a sorcerer exactly due to the fact that in his previous life he gave things to the other people, and these people reincarnate and who are more focused on some things. So what you are addicted as a result, now you have. It turns out the human body is only half trouble. It is important where you will go away and in what quality you will go away having lived your human life. Shudra has 1% passions in this life because he lived because of passions before. He stepped on a rake again and again, but nothing changed. Vesya has 50% for society, 50% for his passions, so he is like a slave. That's why you work now. What do you want? To eat fish and to pass the bones. So to say that I was good and someone else also. Such karma goes from life to life. Not adequate people write this basically. Any person who understands will never write about this and write those who can't think it up. So that is why people need to be explained. Friends, you lost everything because you didn't think about the main thing. If in this life man was born a yogi, but he'll practice yoga for himself, yesterday a man asked the question how to be if from the one hand you are a yogi, from another there is a tree, a house, a family, right? We had a discussion with this man yesterday. Try to understand that if a person does yoga for himself in his next life, he will be a slave. He'll just live his life. I told you a story. A guy had two apartments. He lived in one and another was rented. He closed for 3 or 4 years and practiced yoga for himself. He was brought food, money, but he was practicing only for himself. It was the zero result in 3 years. No result at all. He lost 3 years. Moreover, this kind of life for myself gives negative side effects. A person really develops his power. He indeed becomes more sensitive, but the problem is that when he goes into the society with this sensitivity, into the society he suffers very much. He will rush from the society like from a leopard dog. Is it clear? He can't find how to cope with the society, and it turns out that he will again make a shelter for himself. He will live as an isolated man from the society, so to say. What will be with him in his future life? What do you think? In the future life, there will be no two apartments from the family, and he will work at the best way. It is very good if at the factory. If he will be born in a country where a small percentage of unemployment. If the unemployment rate will be significant, and he only has his yoga tricks, definitely he will. No, he won't bend as he used to. It is extremely rare who can create his own club. Most often, the first year, a person needs to obtain his own experience. He has to work for someone else. It is not better. Tell me, please, the most glamorous profession. Well, a lawyer, for example. Glamorous, yes? Whose interests does the lawyer serve? Correctly, debaters who divide the assets. What is their karma? Those who share the assets and the lawyer who helps them to resolve these situations, right? Does the lawyer get the karma of it all? Yes, of course. Let's go further. Lawyer who sits in the office. I can't imagine any lawyer who would have worked and who would have been paid just for sitting in the office. It is terrible when I face the notary concept. People burn their enormous potential. They are paid for signatures. Think about it. Can you imagine what will happen to such a man in the future? So, friends, any sphere of manufacturing is harmful for this planet. There is no manufacturer on this planet which would bring real goodness. It is extremely rare. If there is an eco-economy of the huge size, that brings healthy products to the society, and they have a lawyer with a notary. It's on the verge fantasy. And everything else is not good because in any case the person will receive only money. It is only paid for that certain mechanism that don't work for the better. And because the motivation of the entire world is not gracious now, so the non-gracious karma will affect any cog in this mechanism, my great regret. Maybe after some time there will be companies or corporations who will produce only gracious things. The lawyers may need to be there. The relationship will be quite different. I remember once I came to one planet. You know, it was almost paradise. It was so great and wonderful there. Everything was good, correct, clean and tidy. But I don't think the people who live there can develop just like you, because when everything is fine, there is no motivation for development. Your job is your stupidity in your previous life, your laziness and your ignorance. Greed, waste of resources. Now life has forced you to work there. And there are some examples, there are few, but believe me, there are some other examples. So, trauma is not an argument at all. It is necessary how to talk on this topic on injury prevention. There is such a feature in the society, injury prevention. It was completely invented in the Western society. A normal Hindu Guruji will be very surprised having heard about such a notion. Don't believe me. Let me give you an example. The safest yoga from Iyengar. In fact, there is everything for the safety of the recipient. But open his own book. Let's open and read this story. I recommend reading it for those who has not read it yet, especially the followers of Iyengar, about the life not of the ancestor but Guruji. Iyengar's teacher made him break his body at least 2 times and treated him maximum unmerciful. That is, there was not even risk of injury. Don't take my word for it. You will be very surprised. Iyengar himself literally says that he taught with a stick. Do you think because of the good life? He said that they were doing the asana incorrectly. I have already told you, they use the stick in 2 ways. First, to align the asana, and then later to stimulate to do this asana properly with the stick. I'm kidding, but he says that indeed, from the point of view of the Indian yoga, the teacher who beats his students takes the karma of his student on himself. And Iyengar literally wrote that under his clothes his entire body was in eczema. It is true. I know for sure that one who causes problems to his student takes his karma, and in India everyone knows that. Therefore, there is no such a notion as injury prevention in India. There are 2 categories of ashrams there. The glamorous one for Europeans and accordingly for Hindus. And it is not the same. These are diametrically opposite things. For Europeans, it is yoga by form, and for Hindus, in fact, the concept of injury prevention is not, to put it mildly, far-fetched. Here's an example. In Rovesnik,
Возможно,
we
были
had
какие-то
only
маленькие,
two
о которых
injuries
мы не
for the last
говорили,
10
но ты
years.
совершенно точно знаешь, что
Perhaps there was some small we didn't say about
было
them,
две
but I
травмы, когда
definitely know that there were
повредили
two
себе
injuries
ребята.
when
Но это
some
мелочь, на
guys
самом деле,
hurt
полная мелочь.
himself. But it is
Ангара сломал
a full
позвоночник своему
trifle.
однокурснику, он
Iyengar
сломал
broke
перед
the
двух
spine
зубами.
to one of his students
Реально.
with his own
То есть он
hands,
засунул
or
в асану
even
так, что
two
сломал
spines.
позвоночник у парня.
So he
Сейчас
put the man into
одна
the
нога
asana
нормальная,
so
другая
that he
отстирана,
broke
потому
his
что
spine.
ему
This
как
guy
попытались
has one
позвоночник
normal leg, but
поправить,
the other suffers now.
но
He was
как бы
tried to correct the
нервные окончания
spine,
там
but
нарушены,
the nerve
нога
endings were
атрофируется.
disordered and
Ну, это
the
так,
leg
вспомнил просто случайно,
atrophies.
извините.
I
В
have
чем
just
вопрос?
remembered about this case. Sorry.
Он
What
его
is
не
your
бил, он
question?
его выкидывал,
He
но
didn't
в
beat
окно
him, he
выкидывал.
got him out of the window.
Бил,
He
бил.
didn't hit. No, this
Но
is
это
different.
другое.
This was
Это просто
just an
эмоциональный
emotional
выбор. Вот.
outburst.
Милорепу,
Milarepa
иначе
did
немножко
a
воспитывал,
bit
то есть он
different. The man
дубленого за
was
своего
forced to build
строить.
by Milarepa.
Бессмысленно.
It is absolutely
Бестолково совершенно.
pointless and
Бессмысленные
clueless.
задания ему
The
давал
man
именно,
was given
ломал его
senseless
сам.
tasks.
Понимаешь,
Milarepa
другое.
broke the man's
Поэтому
self.
ваша
It's a
работа, еще
little
раз
bit
повторяю,
different.
это ваше
Therefore,
невежество в
your
прошлом.
job is your ignorance in the past.
Ну,
There is
дядя Артем
one
Гринчевич,
limitation
человек
in yoga.
сумасшедший, ему не
If the
рекомендуется
person is
заниматься.
mad, he is not recommended to practice. Give
Привел
you an
по
example
поводу
about
мантры
the
Ом,
mantra
кстати, забыл
Om,
рассказать.
which I forgot to tell you.
Приехали как-то
Once we
в
went to
Италию,
Italy
Южный
in
Тирол,
South Tyrol
в Альпах.
in the Alps. There
Там
was
большая
a big
гостиница,
hotel,
какая-то
most likely
христианская, скорее всего,
a
епархия или
Christian one, a diocese.
ну,
Well, how to say,
у Ватикана
Vatican
же
has big
большие
assets.
активы, это
It's
100% окупит.
100%
Потому
of
что в
their asset
каждом
because
номере
there was a
распятие и
crucifix
вот такая
and the
Библия.
big
Ну,
Bible
не
in
смеяться.
every
На самом деле
room.
нормальная
Well,
европейская
they
гостиница.
were not stingy, in fact. It
И
was a
она
normal
сделана
European hotel and
таким
it was made in the
прямоугольником с
form
большим
of the
внутренним
rectangle
двором.
with a large
Поэтому во дворе,
courtyard.
когда
It was
разговариваешь, он
an
такой,
echo when you talk,
и
the
тут
real echo.
мы
So we
занимаемся, никого не
practiced
трогаем. В
there
какой-то
and
из дней
didn't bother
возвращаемся с
anyone.
утренней тренировки,
One day we
смотрю,
returned from the practice.
приехала
We
машин
saw
куча.
a
Причем
lot
машины
of cars.
такие нормальные.
There
То
were
есть в
good
Европе в основном
cars.
там на BMW таких
They mainly
маленьких ездят.
drive not
Это
very
нормальные
expensive
бэхи
car in
приехали,
Europe,
там
but
Мерин
these
этот.
were
Думаю,
very
чё,
good cars,
стрёмка какая-то,
BMW
что ли?
and
Ну, то есть необычная публика, мягко
Mercedes.
говоря.
I thought it was a
Вот.
meeting.
Ну,
Well,
в
it
этой
was
гостинице там
not the
несколько этих,
usual
так называемых,
crowd of
автовокзалов
people.
больших тоже.
There
Ну,
were
наверное,
some
такое там
halls in
собрание
this
общественное.
hotel. I
И
thought
тут я
maybe a
слышу, у меня в
meeting,
окна как
and
раз
then I
выходит там
heard
внутренний
because
двор,
I had the
собираются
windows
люди
just
в этом
open
дворе,
onto the
становятся в круг
courtyard.
и
How
начинают
people gathered in
распеваться.
the
А,
yard,
о, там
stood in a
распевают
circle, and
связки
began
свои.
to sing.
Ну, ладно.
It
И у
found
них,
out that it
оказывается,
was
начинается
Tyrol
геройское
singing.
пение есть
Well,
такое. Знаете, когда они голосят. Ну,
I
я
listened to
послушал,
them,
даже записал,
even
у меня
made a
дома
record of
записали,
their
голосят,
singing,
там эхо такое, красиво все. А потом
and
я
later
узнал,
I find
оказывается,
out that
рассказал
they were
Илона,
the
что это такое.
patients who
Оказывается,
came to
это они
treat
все
their
приезжали
illness.
лечиться. Больные
Elena
люди.
told about this.
Ну,
It
понятно,
is
что
a
национальная
national
традиция, но
tradition,
основной
and the
аргумент,
main concept
они
is
уже
they
больные, в
were
основном это
ill,
сердечники.
mostly with heart
Они
diseases,
приехали
and they
лечиться этим
came
пением.
there to be
Оказывается,
treated by singing. It
когда у
turns
человека
out that when a
происходит
person has vibration
вибрация
here at
вот на
this
этом
level,
уровне, как мы
when we
мантру, к
sing the
примеру,
mantra
поем,
Om, for
они
example,
провели
they
исследование,
have made
что у
studies
человека
and it
буквально там
was proved
рубцы рассасывались.
that
То
while
есть
singing the scars
инфаркт,
were resolving. And literally,
свинец,
the heart attacks
попадали.
and the signs
И
of
проводили
heart
большие
attacks
исследования,
were
поэтому
missing.
часто
And
рекламируется как
it was a big
оздоровительный
research, so
сеанс.
now
И
it
вот все
is
больные люди на
advertised
больших
as
машинах
wellness
тоже
sessions,
приезжают и
and that all the
встретятся.
ill people
Поэтому
on
какое
big
бы у вас ни было
cars
сердце,
come
мантру
and
на
heal.
100% можно.
So, whatever heart
Даже
you have,
рекомендуется для того,
sing the
чтобы
mantra Om.
более-менее развиваться.
You can
Ну и
read
что
it, it is
повезет чуть
even
больше человеку. Если
recommended in
хочется,
order to
включите
more or less
аудио,
develop.
литературу,
You
слушайте.
can
То
also
есть
read a
развивающую
book
литературу
about
хотя бы
yoga.
слушайте.
But if you're a
То есть
blind
всегда
man,
любой человек
you can
может
listen
найти
to it,
себе
so
какой-то
to
вариант.
say, if you're
Есть только
interested in
у человека с
developing,
крышей
you
все
will
хорошо. Если
always
проблемы
find
с
a way
крышей,
to
тогда вот
develop.
уже
But
действительно
it
нужно
is
быть.
only a
Тогда
person is
нужно вам
mentally
задать
okay.
вопрос, а почему
If
у
there is
человека
some
с крышей
problems with the
проблемы?
mentality, then
Объясните что-нибудь такое.
that is
Я
indeed not
отвечаю так,
recommended. Then you need to ask you a
что
question,
царствие съехавших
and why a
душ–
man
это
has
когда
a
человек
problem with the
на
mind.
белое говорит
Ask me a
черным.
question, and
Помните, я вам
I
говорил,
answer them.
что вы
The
можете
problems with
мудрость и
the
карму
mind is
перенести
caused
еще
when a
только
person Name the black things, the white one.
Самое
Remember, I told you that you
какой
can
бы ни
take
был
your
человек
wisdom and your karma
странным,
with
даже если он
experience of
занимается
practice.
йогой для
So
себя,
here's the thing
но
that
его
would have
карма,
been a strange person,
я не хочу, конечно,
even
вам
if he
говорить
does yoga
такие,
for
такие,
himself,
знаете,
but
вещи,
his
поверьте на
karma,
слово,
I don't know
но я
what to
вынужден это
say,
сказать, это
some
правда.
things, take my word
Любой
for it.
йог
But I
эволюционно
have to
намного
say
выше
that it is the
всех
truth.
остальных
Any
каст.
yogi
В
evolutionary
силу
is much
освобожденности
above
от
all other
страстей.
castes,
Тут на
because he
слове
is free
эволюционной
from
деятельности, это
passions.
Писание говорят,
That
это не
is
мое мнение.
according the
Поэтому
evolutionary
если
level.
кто-то
This the
найдет
writings say. And this is
именно
not my
практика
opinion. So if someone makes bad things for
несправедливо
yogi
или
or
налажает,
the
или против него
practitioner
что-то
by
делает,
coming
вы знаете,
down
какие
on
последствия
them,
будут
you know
для того,
what the
кто наехал?
consequences will be for the one who do bad things. Well,
Вы
advise
посоветуете
him,
ему не говорить
don't
будет,
tell
вы просто
him. He
посоветуйте.
won't understand.
Если вы
Advise
в
him,
Москве
if he
живете,
lives
в
in
Кащенко,
Moscow, to
отремонтируйте
repair
какие-нибудь
the
палаты,
chambers
что-то
in
там генремонт в
Koshenko,
сумасшедшем
to
доме
make
сделать. В
Western
будущей жизни,
style
возможно, это
renovation in
пригодится.
the madhouse. It will be good for him in his
Определенные
future
параллели в
life.
этом на самом
There are
деле есть.
certain
Потому
parallels
что если
in this
человек
actually,
наезжает как бы на тот, кто
because if the person
двигается
come down
с
on
минимальным
someone
количеством
who
омрачений,
moves with a minimal amount of
я
obscurations,
вынужден об этом
he
каждый
will
раз.
have
Вот здесь вот
problems.
омрачений
I have
максимальное
to talk
количество, поэтому
about
человек, кроме
this
страстей,
every
ничего не
time.
понимает.
There are maximum
Допустили это?
obscurations
Здесь же
here.
поменьше. То
That
есть
is
он
why
омрачение
the
хочет
person
устранить,
doesn't
соответственно,
understand
общество
anything
что
except
делает?
passions.
Здесь еще меньше.
Did you
Он уже
understand it?
общество защищает, но
Here there are
омрачение все равно
little,
есть.
so to say, he wants to feed his
Поэтому какой бы ни был йог,
obscurations
какой бы он ни
and
был
serve
там
the
странный или
society.
дохлый,
Here, even
неважно,
less. He
это
protects the
отдельная
society but
категория
still
людей,
has some
которые двигаются по
obscurations.
своим законам совсем.
Therefore, no matter what kind of a
Очень
person
рекомендую
is
йогой
the
заниматься.
yogi, a strange or a skinny
Короче,
one,
травмы.
this
Это
is a
нужно
separate
в прошлой
category of
жизни
people who move
обращаться,
according to their
естественно,
own
не,
laws at all.
вернее так,
I
в
generally
прошлой жизни
recommend
были причины
practicing
того, что
yoga.
с вами
In
происходит
short, the
по
causes
карме
of injuries
какие-то
should be
травмы.
found in your last
Не
lives.
старайтесь их
So to
получать.
say, why
Вы не
did you have
сделаете.
some injuries?
Если вы будете
According to your
адекватно
karma in
заниматься
your
и
past life.
дозировать,
Don't try to
вот
get
всегда
injuries,
говорю, есть
minimize them.
понятие боль,
Try to
есть понятие
practice yoga
дискомфорт.
adequately and dose
Занимайтесь
it. I
йогой до
always
уровня
say the following:
дискомфортной.
there is the
Никто вас
notion
не
of pain
заставляет
and the
засовывать ногу за
discomfort.
голову или там еще
Practice
что-нибудь
yoga
делать.
till the level of discomfort because
Более того,
nobody
вам даже
forces you
скажу,
to
все
twist your leg
засовывания ноги за
behind
голову
your
или
head
какие-то там
or something like
закручивания,
that.
это не от
I even
хорошей
tell
жизни.
you that all this twisting are
Достаточно
not from the
выполнять
good life.
среднее
It
количество
is enough
асан
to make the
и
average number of
заниматься
asanas and to
социумом. Все у вас
practice with
будет
the
хорошо.
society,
То
and
есть к вам
everything
всегда
will
будет
be
приходить
fine.
свежая
So to say, you
энергия,
will
с
always
которой вам
have
через
fresh
свои тело
energy
придется
with
работать.
which you have to
Понятна логика?
work through
Поняли,
your
что я
body.
говорю, или не
Did
совсем?
you understand the logic? Not
Не
quite
совсем,
enough.
кто не
Who
совсем понял,
did
о чем
not
я говорю, извините
understand
меня.
it quite enough? What I said.
Опускайте.
Raise your hand.
Обычный йог
Okay, the usual
выполняет
yogi
какую-то
does
асану
some asana
и
and does
выполняет
it the
уже все,
way
ничего уже не
he
чувствует. То есть
doesn't
вот все, он
feel that
дошел до
he
предела.
has reached the
На
limit.
следующем этапе он
The
начинает
next stage,
усложнять
he
эту асану.
begins to
То есть он
complicate this
закручивается еще
asana,
сильнее.
so he twists
Потом
even
делает ее.
stronger than he
На
did. He
следующем этапе в
again
ней уже
doesn't
перестает
feel
что-то чувствовать.
something and then he
Потом
twists
еще
more.
сильнее
He's
закручивает
trying
себя.
to skip
Он
this
пытается
discomfort through
через
the
асану
asana to
пропустить
change
тот
the
самый
flow of the
дискомфорт,
energy.
чтобы
Clear?
изменить ток энергии. Понятно? Вот
That is
почему
why
бывают
there are
простые
simple
асаны сложнее,
asanas,
сложнее, сложнее,
complicated,
сложнее.
more
И
complicated,
бывают
and
асаны, которые для
finally there
большинства
are
смертных, ну, как бы
asanas
вообще не актуальны.
which most people well
Так
are
вот, если
not real
человек
at all.
живет не
So if
только
the man
йогой, а
lives
еще и
not only
определенные правильные
practicing
дела
yoga
делает,
but
то
also
он
do
всегда
some
будет
good
в
deeds,
взаимодействии с
he will
социумом.
always
К нему
be
всегда
in
будут приходить
interaction
мысли,
with the
которые даже на
society.
начальном
The
уровне
energy will
будут
always come
доставлять
to
ему
him,
дискомфорт. Понятно?
which even at the
И тогда
primary
травмы
level will
никакие
give
просто
him some
нереальны.
discomfort. Clear?
В
And
серьезно,
then
вы поняли, о
any
чем я говорю?
injury is simply not real. Did you understand what I mean?
Правильно.
Right.
На
At the
начальном
initial
уровне
stage, it will
всегда
always
будет
work on
работать эта
this
мудрость.
level,
Когда
and then
травмы
the
исключены.
injury is
Если же
excluded.
у вас йога,
If you
нога
practice
за
yoga
голову там,
with
или
your
еще
leg
что-нибудь сделать ради того,
behind your
чтобы круто
head, or
сфотографироваться,
just to have a
естественно,
cool
будет травма.
photo, of
Это, ну,
course,
как бы
there will be
совершенно
injuries.
нормально.
It's absolutely
То есть
okay, so
нужно
to say.
заниматься
You
йогой
should
и не быть
practice yoga
равнодушным
and
человеком,
be
и
not
никаких травм у
indifferent
вас не будет.
person,
Все
and
услышали?
there will be
Потому
no
что вы на этом
injuries.
уровне так и
Did
будете
all of
потихонечку
you
двигаться.
hear this? Because you are at this level and you will gradually
Естественно,
move.
такая. Я
Of
только и
course,
говорю про
I'm
базовый
talking
раз.
about the basic
Вам никто
asanas.
не
You
будет
will not be
рекомендовать сделать то,
recommended to
что,
do
ну, как бы,
something that can hurt teach you, okay?
Да. Это
I
не я
didn't
сказал, это
say
Писание
this, the
говорит.
writing says so. Look,
Слушайте,
open any book
откройте
and look
любую
at the
книжку и
relationship
посмотрите
between
на
Brahmans
взаимоотношения
and
между
Kshatriyas.
брахманами и кшатриями. Почитается
Kshatras are
кшатрии
considered
самые
the
крутые.
best, but they always go
Всегда
to bow to
идут на поклон
Brahmans.
к брахману. Всегда.
Always.
Тогда о
Okay,
каких
well,
примерах вы меня
so
спрашиваете?
about what examples do you ask me? In
В
this
данном случае
case,
я...
I don't. If the
Если бы витязи
knights
были
were
прокачаны, они
pumped,
бы
they
никогда не
would not
убивали
have
вокруг себя
killed
никого,
anyone
потому что
around them,
смертоубийство не
because
решает
killing
энергетические
doesn't
проблемы.
solve the energy problem.
То
So
есть
to
Витязь,
say,
он легко
the
отрубает
knight easily
голову,
cuts off
если
the
считает,
head
что что-то тут
if he
неправильно.
thinks that
Вор
something
никогда
was
этого не
not right.
делает,
The
потому что,
sorcerer will never
отрубив
do
голову,
this,
вы не
because
устраняете
cutting
само
off the
зло.
head does not
Вор
eliminate
подключил
evil.
какую-то
The
другую
sorcerer
методику
would give
долгого
some
лечения
method
этого
for the
человека, чтобы он
treatment of this
просветлел.
man in order to
Убить
become
не
clear
будет,
up.
поймите.
Killing is not the solution.
Но это один из
Understand
примеров.
this.
Еще раз повторюсь,
Well,
читайте
this
литературу,
is
все
one
поймете.
example. I
Там есть
repeat
языка
once
есть понять.
again. Read the literature, you will understand
Читайте
everything.
Махабхарату, вы
Well,
увидите
unless, of
взаимоотношения
course, you want
брахманов
to
с
understand.
витязями,
Read
брахманов с...
Mahabharata, you will see the relationship between Brahmans and the
Я же вам в
knights.
самом
I
начале
told
сказал,
you this in the very
что я
beginning. I
привел
just gave you the Russian
классификацию российскую,
classification. It
точно
is
так же
almost the
относится
same.
практически то же самое. Если вы
If you
считаете,
think
что
that the
волк,
sorcerer is
с палкой
somebody who
ходит, или
walks
там
with a
эта
stick
песня поет
singing
под
songs
духом,
accompanied
это
by tambourine,
осколки того,
it
что
is
было
just the
когда-то.
fragments of what it once was.
Правильно. Так и
Right,
есть.
it is so. They
Действительно
work in
хорошо
the
работают.
office well. So, but nobody
Ну
argues
так они
they have
прожили.
the right.
Имеют
The
право.
question is probably that he also practices yoga, but then, in fact, he is not a yogi. Who? Vesya, it turns out that he's not a sorcerer, but he can practice yoga.
Дайте ему
Give him
времени.
time. Let's not
Давайте
to
не
be in
будем
hurry.
спешить.
Most of you
Большинство
are
из вас
Vesya
тоже
too.
есть.
No
Неизвестно,
one
что с вами
knows
через 10 лет
what
будет.
will be with you in 10
Поэтому
years.
эволюция, она при одной
So the
жизни возможно
evolution
легко
is
совершить.
possible in one life.
Причем, судя по тому, что
Moreover,
вы сейчас
because of
слышите,
what you
у
hear
многих из
now,
вас возможна
many of
эволюция.
you maybe have evolution. So, did we
Значит,
finish
с травмой
with the
разобрались, да?
injuries, okay? Do not
Не
chase
гонитесь
stupidity
за
and
глупостью, и
everything
все
will
будет
be
хорошо.
fine. It was
Тут у нас
written
что-то было
here.
написано.
No
Мотивация.
motivation. Listen,
Слушайте,
if there is no
как это нужно
motivation,
делать?
just live as the others.
Живите как все.
Everything is not constant. You will have your body
Итого, все классно
anyway,
сейчас.
even this who
Все
has
равно вы оставите свое тело.
all fun now.
Как раз таки,
Just
вот,
what you
что вы говорили,
said,
там, кто как
who and how
занимается,
practice.
по
According to the
Писаниям,
writings,
весям
Vesya
тоже мало
were
давали
also
йоги
given to
одного.
practice yoga.
Они
They
занимались йогой
practiced
уже
yoga
после
already
перед
before
смертью.
their death.
То есть, когда
So to say,
последняя
when
кровь
there is
распределена,
already
уже
gray
человек начинает
hair
думать, уже
and the
начинает
man
перепеть.
begins to
И в данном
think
случае даже не
and he
асана,
starts
именно
to
внутренними
practice
практиками,
yoga,
если у них есть
and
учитель,
in this case,
которому
not
они всю
even the
жизнь свою
asanas, but
жертвовали
the inner
что-то на какие-то
practices.
материальные
If
блага,
they have a
то этот
teacher
веся
whom they
приходит к человеку,
sacrificed
ну, к этому
or
учителю,
all
для того,
their
чтобы этот
lives
учитель ему
something
уже направил
material
верную
well,
позицию,
so this Vesya comes
потому
to
что он
this man,
понятно, какие
to
у него
this
отношения
teacher,
с
to
миром.
ask him how to
Так что
transform, because it is
мотивации
clear
сложно
how the
что-то.
relationship are
Интернет
built.
сейчас кишит
It is a
разными
difficult question with the motivation.
лекциями
Listen,
разных людей.
the
Для
internet
каждой
is now
категории
full of different lectures
слушателей
of
нужен
different
свой
people.
лектор.
Each
Что-нибудь вы себе
category of
найдете,
students need
промотивируетесь, и,
their own
возможно, будете
teacher.
заниматься.
Maybe you will find something for you. You will be
Знаете, кто же сказал,
motivated
что
and
мотивацией не
probably
хватает
will
заниматься?
practice. Well, who said that there is no much motivation to practice?
Кто ищет,
When there
тот
is
все
a will,
найдет.
there is a way.
Хорошо,
Okay,
друзья.
friends, family.
Семья.
The cell of society,
Звучит
the
по-общему.
family. It
Семья
implies you, your
подразумевает вас,
parents,
родителей,
grandfather,
деток.
great
Target,
grandfather, or something like
или
that.
как там иначе
7
называют?
bodies or
А?
so. A good cell of society.
Ну или
If
так.
you are still young and you
Хорошая
don't have
фишка
a
общества.
family,
Если
practice
вы
yoga
полночи
before
живете и
it
у
is
вас
too
нет
late.
семьи,
Because when
пока
you
не
will have
появится,
a
не занимайтесь
family,
йогой. Будет
there will
семья,
be
а
no
йога уже не
time for
будет.
yoga, as the quality of the
Качество
family
семьи
is
очень
very
сильно
different from the
отличается
energy
от
with
той
which you
энергии, с которой
created
вы эту
this
семью
family.
создали.
If you have
Был
the
у вас потенциал
potential of
подготовки,
training,
занимайтесь
practice
йогой,
yoga,
а
and
потом
after
семья,
you
и
will
ваши
have a
дети будут
family.
одними из детей,
Your
которые будут
family will
поддерживать йогу.
develop in one
Если
way.
вы
If you have
сразу
a family
семья, а йога
first and
потом,
then
йога
practice
потом
yoga,
будет.
then
Лет
yoga
через
will
50,
be in 50
наверное.
years.
Потому что
Probably
все оставшееся
because
время
the
у вас будет
rest of the
семья,
time
семья,
you will
семья,
have
семья,
to
семья.
spend on your
Поэтому
family.
пока вы молоды, я,
So
кстати, вам,
while you are young,
возможно, или завтра, или
practice
послезавтра как
yoga.
раз-таки
I will
расскажу
tell you
о
maybe tomorrow or the day after about the benefits of practicing
занятии
yoga before
йогой
you have
до того,
children,
как вы
so
рожаете
to say
детей. То
that
есть,
the
чтобы
children will
к вам
come to you
приходили
energetically
энергетически
developed.
развитые.
I
Надеюсь,
hope we will
завтра на эту
discuss
тему
this
поговорим.
topic tomorrow.
В общем, семья
In
хорошее
general, having a
средство.
family is a
Это
good
для кого-то
tool.
грабли,
For
для
someone,
кого-то
it is
опыт.
a rake. For someone, it is
Если
experience. I
йога, я
always
всем
recommend
рекомендую, если
yogis,
вы
if
преподаватель
you are a
йоги,
yoga teacher,
обязательно
making a family. Have
сделайте себе
children
семью,
so you have
заведите детей,
experience.
чтобы вы
A
накопили опыт.
yoga teacher without
Преподаватель йоги
children
без
will
детей,
not
он
understand
многих
many
вещей
things in
будет не
this world.
понимать в этом
He
мире.
will have some
Он, так
certain
сказать, ну,
illusions. But if you
иллюзии
have
определенные будет
experience
иметь.
what
Только
it is
если вы
like
через
to
свою
raise a
шкуру все
child,
это пропустите,
what
что
the
такое
child is
воспитать
himself,
ребенка,
how
что такое
selfishness
ребенок, как
develops
у
in
ребенка
him. It
эгоизм
is a very
развивается,
good
это
way to
очень
watch after
хорошее
this
средство
world.
наблюдения за этими людьми.
Therefore, I
Поэтому
recommend
рекомендую
to
всем
all
преподавателям
teachers
какое-то
practicing
количество
for
лет
some
позаниматься
number of
собой,
years,
развить
then to
энергетику
develop your
и уже
energy, and then
целенаправленно думать о детях.
deliberately think about the
Найти себе
children.
партнера, желательно
Find a
йога.
partner. Better to
Почему?
find a
Потому
yogi.
что,
Why?
ну, как
Because,
показывает
well,
опыт,
as
если
experience
один
shows, if
партнер
one partner
занимается
is
йогой
a
серьезно
yogi
и
and
преподает, а
teaches it,
второй
and the
партнер,
other partner,
например,
for
Веся,
example, a Vesya,
то
well,
работник,
a
бизнесмен,
worker
у
or a
них будет
businessman,
много
they will have
недопониманий.
many
Веся,
misunderstandings.
его
Vesya
перешкаливать
will always be
постоянно
in passions.
в страсти,
He will say
сказать,
to
к
his
жене, ну что
wife
ты такая
that she
холодная,
became
понимаешь?
cold, but she
Мы
was
же с тобой
different when they
женились, ты же
had
другая
married,
была, что ты
and why
превратилась
she
в
became
ледышку
so
какого-то,
cold.
понимаешь?
And for her,
А
it
для
will
нее
be
это
a
будет
very
вечный
big
геморрой.
problem
Извините
because
за
it will
выражение,
be
что
only
все страсти, да
passions and
страсти, страсти, да
passions.
страсти. Да
She
сколько
said
ж
to
можно
him
как-то
to calm
успокоиться?
down, enough to talk about this.
Поэтому лучше,
So
конечно,
it's
искать
better to
себе
look for a
йога
yogi for
еще по
another
одной
reason.
причине.
In the
В
coming
ближайшие
years on
годы на
this
этой
planet, there
планете
will be
будет
many
много
interesting
любопытных
events,
событий.
and it is believed that there is a
И
large
считается,
casting
что
for many
есть
yogis to reincarnate
большой
here
кастинг
to see
для
live
многих
how it
йогов
all will be.
перевоплотиться здесь, чтобы посмотреть вживую, как оно все будет. Но
But
такие
such yogi
йоги...
what?
Что?
In this
В этой
era, the
среде билеты
tickets
не
are not
продаются, они
sold.
зарабатываются
They are
тяжелейшим
earned
трудом,
by hard
аскезами.
physical
То
work,
есть никакие
austerity.
финансы
So
тебя
to say,
никуда
no
в эту сферу
finance
не
will get
пропустят.
you
Это немножко
this
другой
area,
случай.
and it is a
Есть такая
slightly
теория,
different
что
case.
существуют
There is a
планеты,
theory that there are
где
planets where the perfect planets,
идеальная планета,
the
как
perfect
идеальный шар,
sphere,
там
there
не
is
человек, а
nothing there,
только ровная
just a flat
поверхность.
surface,
И
and
там
there is every
каждый
meter
метр
of
этой
the surface,
поверхности,
not in the rent,
не,
but
не в
how to
аренде, как
say
это
it,
сказать,
for many
намного
kalpas
кальки
ahead
вперед
is written
расписано,
for those who
кто
wants
туда
to get
хочет
there,
попасть.
because on this
Потому что на этой
planet, when they
планете, когда
come there,
туда
they
воплощаешься, не воплощаешься
incarnate it
мгновенно, это
instantly,
только для
and it is
йогов,
only for
и йоги там
yogis,
занимаются
and
только
yogis sing the
мантра-йогой.
mantra Om
То
there.
есть там мантра
For
Ом
example, there is the
постоянно
mantra Om
бесконечно, и вот
constantly,
на эту планету там
infinitely, and the
кастинг
casting to this planet is very
колоссальный.
huge. You
Даже
can't
за
get
таких
there
людей
for
попасть
any
невозможно.
money, it is
Кто-то,
impossible.
конечно, из йогов,
Some
конечно,
yogis
туда
want to get
стремится
there, of
из-за
course,
корысти, это
because of some
возможно.
profits,
В чем корысть?
perhaps. What is the
Если попал
profit?
на эту планету
If you
хотя бы
came to
раз
this planet
и
at least
установил
once
кармическую
and
связь с этой
established a
планетой,
karmic relationship with this planet,
ну типа того.
it means that
Ну
there,
там
whenever you
единство потом в
come,
будущих
you would
жизнях у
come into
тебя,
your
как это
future
называется,
lives. You have the
пропуск везде.
so-called pass
Везде
everywhere.
будет
It
хорошо,
will be
потому
well
что
everywhere
канал
because the
остается,
channel
и энергия
leaves
будет
open,
как бы
and
тебя
the energy
поддерживать
will support you for a number of reasons.
по ряду причин.
Accordingly,
Соответственно,
I
рекомендую
recommend
йогам,
yogis,
если
if you
вы
plan to be on
планируете
this
как бы на
path
этой
for a
стезе
long
находиться
time,
долго,
develop
обязательно
yourself
развивайте
and look
себя,
for the right
ищите себе
partner,
адекватного
give
партнера
birth
и
to yogi
рожайте детей.
children.
Дети
Children are given
рожаются
birth
здесь,
So I'll talk in
Поэтому я
short, but
в
it is in
усеченной
fact
форме буду говорить, но это по факту, что Чем
that the
больше вы
more you
будете
practice,
заниматься,
the
тем
wiser will be the
разумнее вы
children
будете.
from the
Это с точки
point of view
зрения
of convenience for
удобства
you,
для вас.
because a normal
Потому
child
что
will
обычный
drive
ребенок, он любому
his
родителю
parents
может будет
crazy.
выносить
It is very hard
по-жесткому.
to bring
То
up a
есть
child
воспитывать
really.
очень.
The
Чем
more the
больше у
child
ребенка
has
эгоизма, тем больше
egoism,
седых
the
волос
more
у
gray hair
родителя.
the parents
Это
have.
взаимосвязано.
It is
Чем меньше
interrelated.
эгоизма
The smaller ego,
тем меньше седых
respectively,
волос.
the smaller
Это
gray
гармоничные
hair. So
взаимоотношения.
to say,
Понятно,
it
что
is
вы
harmonious
знаете, как
relationship. It
союзники
is
практически.
almost as alias.
У
You
вас
have a
другая
bit
ситуация
different
немножко,
situation
потому
because you are
что
already
вы уже по
burdened by
своей
your
карме
karma with the conditions.
обременены
So take
условиями.
out of these
Тогда из
conditions
этих
what
условий
you
извлекаете
can
то,
do.
что
So
вы
to say,
можете
take
делать.
and do it
То есть
better.
берите и делайте
Your
лучше.
kids are
У вас
exactly what you
зеркало
need
такие,
for
которые
your
вам необходимы
development
для вашего
and
развития
for
вашей жены.
development of your
Они вам
wife,
необходимы. И
and you
если вы
need
считаете,
them.
они вас не
And do
развивают,
you
то
want
еще
to
как
say that
развивают.
they do not develop you? They do
Поэтому
develop you,
радуйтесь тому,
therefore
что
be
есть.
happy that they
Здесь как бы
exist.
вариантов нет.
There are no variants here.
Все равно
You should
йогой нужно
practice
заниматься.
yoga
Если вы
anyway.
как бы не
If you
глупый
are a
человек,
clever man,
то вы
you will
поймете, да,
understand.
я не смогу,
Yes, I
наверное, сделать
probably
то, что
won't be able
смогут
to
сделать,
do what
допустим, те,
can
у
do
кого
those
карма
who
более
have
легкая,
easier
чем в моем
karma
случае.
than in
Но
my
тем не менее,
case,
вам можно
but
поправить
nevertheless
свои
you can make the
немощи.
efforts
Да.
no less. Yes?
Я
I
не
don't
думаю,
think
потому
because you
что вы своим
understand the
умом
problem
понимаете
in one
проблему
way
по
with your
одному,
mind,
но не
but
факт,
not
что
the
ваша
fact that
живатма
your
разделяет
Jivatma
мнение вашего
shares the
ума.
view of your
То есть,
mind.
возможно, у
So
вас будет
maybe
конфликт.
you have a
Кроме
conflict,
того, если вы
except that
имеете
you
человеческое
have a
тело
human body
и
and you
для
already
чего-то
think
уже
about how
думаете о
to
том,
get
чтобы
into
другие условия
another
попасть,
conditions.
то это невежество.
So that is
Вы не
ignorance. You
сможете
can't
изменить
change the circumstances
обстоятельства,
which
из-за
you
которых вы,
probably
видимо,
want to
хотите что-то
change
изменить.
something because the
Потому что
circumstances
обстоятельства
are formed
сформированы
by
кармой.
karma. To
Кого бы вы
whom
ни
you are
родились, у
born,
вас
you will
будут те же
have the
самые
same
условия, в
conditions
которых вы
in
находитесь
which you are
сейчас.
now.
Понятно?
Yeah,
Вы
you
не
can't
сможете
escape.
убежать.
It is
Договориться
impossible
невозможно,
to
потому что
agree
нужно договориться с кармой
because
сначала.
first you
С кармой
should agree
договориться
with
потом
your
без проблем,
karma,
но все так и
first
быть не
agree with
классику.
your
Как
karma,
бы должен был
then
поступить.
no problem, it will bring you how to be properly.
И что? Нет, есть
No, there
такая
is a
тема,
topic
когда не
not
только
only
когда я
when he was
воплотился,
embodied, not
воплотил, есть
embodied,
тема,
and
когда...
there exists the topic
Ну
when,
ладно, не будем
well,
про эту
let's
тему,
not discuss this topic
потому что
because
нет, не в
no,
этом дело.
that's
Тема
not the point.
перевоплощения,
And the
она
topic of
очень
reincarnation
опасная
is very dangerous for a number
по
of
ряду
reasons.
причин.
Not for us,
Не
but
для
for the
нас,
demon,
для демонов. Потому что у
because
демонов
they have
такое
such a
свойство, они
quality
все
trying
пытаются
to
под себя
steamroll
подмять.
under themselves,
И
and the
эта тема
things with
с
reincarnation
перевоплощением,
are
там
complicated.
слишком это все...
I
Там
will
никто не
give you
примет.
one example so
Чтобы вы
you
понимали,
understand. I
вот у
have
меня
a friend
знакомый,
who many years ago also wanted to obtain some
много лет тому назад
experience
он тоже
from the
хотел с точки
point of view
зрения
of
йоги
yoga
получить хоть
to
какой-то
check
опыт. Вот правда
is
это или
it right
неправда,
or
да?
not.
Вот
And
существует
there
прошлая жизнь или не
any past
существует? Существуют
lives
другие
or
планеты или не
not?
существуют? Это
Are there
проверить.
any other
А он
planets or
молодец, у там
not?
высшее
I don't
образование, то
believe.
есть такой вот
He's a
начитанный,
good
он
man
поступает
with a
соответственно.
high education, so to say.
И
He
я не
reads
помню
a
там,
lot.
что он делал с
He's
собой,
he's a
каким
smart guy,
образом.
and
Ну,
I
короче,
don't
он смог
remember what he was
вытянуть
doing.
свое
Well,
сознание из тела,
somehow he
соответственно,
could throw
и
his
несется,
consciousness
соответственно, в
out
свой
of the body,
планетный реальный. То есть он
respectively,
все это
carried
переживает.
into another
И чем
planet
дальше в
and
йоге, тем
see
больше
that
скорость
it really exists. So
увеличивается.
to say, he is
А на определенном
experiencing
этапе он
all
понял,
this,
что уже
and the further
тормозов
he
нет. То есть
goes,
вот
the more the speed
скорость он
increases.
набрал,
And at a
а
certain
затормозить он не
point, he
знает.
realized that he
И он
has no
реально не может
brakes.
остановить
So to
человека.
say, he had gained the
Ну, вы
speed, but
знаете, вот
how
я
to
на
slow
самом себе
down, he
легко рассказал.
doesn't know, and he really can't stop. But you
Конечно,
know,
в
I
итоге
have
ему как-то
just told
удалось
you about
вернуться.
this so easily,
У
but in
него
general, in the
очень
end, he
долго потом
managed
реально
somehow
трясло.
to come back,
Вот
and
когда он
he was
увидел правду
shaking for
матку,
a
что
long time.
называется,
That's when he saw the
жизнь это
truth.
одно,
That is, his life is
а
one
вакуум
thing,
это
but the
другое,
vacuum
планета
is
другое,
another
такие
thing.
миры
The planet
бывают,
is
это тоже
another thing,
другое.
and that different world exists.
Ну, я так
Well,
за ним
I
потом
was watching
наблюдал,
him for some
я
time.
потом последний
I
раз
saw
где-то
him 10
лет через
years
10,
ago, and he was
и вот, на
still
мой взгляд, он до сих пор
shaking.
еще трясется.
So to
Ну,
say,
то есть меня
his
такое поведение,
behavior
знаете,
was a bit
немножко
strange,
странноватое.
but he
Но я
was
тогда был
so
испуг очень
scared that
сильный.
time. but
А
he
так вот просто
also
хотел над
wanted to
волочатами
check
проверить немного.
how
Как
other
оно там на
things
самом деле? Или в
there
моменте
behind
или
actually. Well, he
в
had
моменте?
ambitions.
Это,
So
конечно же,
try
его
to
проучили.
realize that, of
То есть
course, he
жестко. Он
had
его
been
ломил за
taught the
ту дверь,
lesson
которую
very
ему
hard.
слишком рано было
Maybe he
заходить.
was
Ему
knocking
открыли,
the door, he
показали,
wanted
так
early
сказать.
to come,
Потом
but the door
закрыли, он
was
же
opened,
жив остался.
closed, and he was
Ну,
sure
допустим,
to
мы
be
когда
happy
читаем
to
мантру,
stay alive.
явно
That's why
экономия,
we say
поднимаем энергию
when we
до
read the
головы,
mantra
дыхание до
Om,
головы,
I
до головы,
recommend
да?
you to raise
Потому
your
что в
energy
некоторых
to
школах
the head, your
рекомендуют уводить
consciousness to the
выше,
head. Yes,
максимально
because in
высоко.
some schools
Но были
they
случаи,
recommend to raise it
когда
above the head,
уходили
as high as possible. But
ну и,
there were
соответственно,
cases when they went
возможно,
higher.
кому-то
Well, and
уйти через
accordingly,
мантру
it is
высоко это очень
possible
хорошо,
for someone to
но
go higher
проблема
through the
возникает
mantra
у
Om.
тех,
It is
у кого
very
на
good,
руках
but
тело
problems
остается.
appear for
Чувство, в
those who
принципе,
have
этого
the
нет.
body remained. What then to do with this
Поэтому
body?
у нас
So
лучше
it
не
is better
уходите.
not to go
Оставайтесь
away in
здесь.
our club. Go away in
Уходите в
somewhere
других
other
местах.
places.
Ну
Well,
что, друзья,
friends, I think
по-моему,
it is
вернее,
laziness.
ну
Well,
что
listen,
касается
concerning
лени,
laziness, look at this scheme.
на эту
Laziness is
схему
here a
посмотрите.
priori.
Вот
They are
лень
lazy to do
априори
something to
вот здесь.
practice.
Им лениво что-то делать, лениво заниматься собой.
Look
Посмотрите вокруг.
around. If you're
Если вас
satisfied with
устраивает
the
тот мир, в
world in
котором вы
which you
живете,
live,
тогда
then be
ленитесь.
lazy.
Если
If you
вас
are
все не
not
устраивает, если вы
satisfied,
хотите
if
жить
you want to
лучше,
live a better
тогда
life,
пытайтесь.
then make
Если у вас уже есть
efforts. If you
дети, я
already
вам
have
расскажу
children,
мотивацию
I
для
tell you
родителей с
about the
детьми.
motivation for parents with
У вас есть
children.
дети,
Well,
вы их родили.
you
Теперь
have
вы узнали о
children,
том, что все
you
на самом
had
деле
given
серьезно,
birth
что
to them.
существует
Now you
реинкарнация,
have learned
перевоплощение.
that everything is actually serious,
А
that
вы же
there
жили
is
как?
reincarnation,
Нормальные люди. У вас
transformation, and
дети в
you used
нормальной,
to
в
live
кавычки,
like
детский садик
normal
ходили, в
people.
нормальную
Your
школу
children well
ходили.
to a
Они, может, у
so-called
кого-то
common
институт уже закончили.
kindergarten and then to a
И
common
детский
school.
садик,
Maybe
школа,
some
специальный институт,
children have already
университет ведет у кого?
graduated from the institute. And
У
who has
потребителя.
grown by
У
this
кого ребенок не
kindergarten, the
потребитель? Поднимите
school,
руку.
and the social
Нету,
institute
да?
from your child? The
Удивительно, почему
consumer.
так?
Whose child is not the
Странная
consumer?
статистика.
Raise your hand. No hands?
И
Really?
вы
I
его родили
wonder
в
why
этот мир,
so. A
но вы
strange
прощелкали и из
statistics.
него
And
сделали
you
потребителя.
gave birth to
И вот
your
если ваш
child
ребенок
into
плохо
this world, but
перевоплотится,
you
вы
missed the
будете
moment
несчастливы,
and he
потому
was
что вы
made the
его в этот мир
consumer. And
родили,
if your
и он
children
из-за
does
вас
not reincarnate
деградировал
in a
на
good way,
будущие
you
годы.
will be responsible
Поэтому
because
наша
you have
мотивация
your
заниматься
child in
ерунду.
this world,
Не
and
ради
because
себя, а
of
ради
you
него.
he degraded to a
Потому что
lower
йогу вряд ли
level.
вы
So
сможете
your
изменить.
motivation now is to
Если
practice
ребенка
yoga, and
программируют по
not for
полной
yourself,
программе,
but
как
for
животное,
him, because you will hardly
то
be able to change
он
your
будет идти
child
своей дорогой,
after
ломать
he
нам
was
бессмысленно.
processed.
Но еще
He
раз
is
повторю,
like an
теперь вы
animal, he
обязаны
will go
заниматься
his own
собой
way,
и
and to
за
break
себя, и
him
за
is
него.
senseless. But I
Это
repeat
не
it
шутки,
once
что если
again,
ваш
and
ребенок
now you have to deal
деградирует
with
или плохо
yourself for
перевоплотится,
yourself
это
and for
логично,
your
поймите.
child.
Если
This is not a
ребенок или,
joke that
не знаю,
if
там
your
родственник
child is
деградирует,
degraded and
вначале мы
reincarnate
говорим только о
badly,
приятных
it's
вещах. Вот
logical, you
родственники
understand.
деградируют,
If
я
the
говорю, ну это
child,
их
or I
карма,
don't know,
будете
there is a
бороться, да?
relative who
Я
degrades, at
как бы
first
говорил
we only
одну
talked
сторону
about
проблемы,
pleasant things. The relatives
потому
degrade
что
and
вторую
I said to
сторону,
fight for them. I
сторону
have told you
проблемы,
about the one
как бы
side of the
бессмысленно
problem,
говорить, ну
because the
если я
second
не
side,
йог,
the
а вы
problem
пока еще
side,
не
how to
йоги.
say, is
Но
useless
йогам
to
нужно говорить
tell
вторую сторону
if you are
проблемы.
not a
Дорогие
yogi
себя,
yet.
взяли
And
часть
now you
мужика.
are not a yogi yet,
Они
but
стали
yogis are
тем,
had
кем
to
они
say
стали,
the
только для того,
second
чтобы
side
вы
of the
сохранили
problem.
определенную здравость.
They took part
Теперь
in your
ваша это
karma.
уже
They
ответственность, вы должны
became
заниматься не
what
за
they
себя
became
или за них.
only in order to keep a certain sense.
Понятно?
And now it is
Вот такая
already
вот
your
мотивация для семейных
responsibility,
людей.
and you need to practice yoga for yourselves
Что-что?
and for them. Clear? Here's a motivation for married
Все то же
people.
самое, потому
What,
что
what?
ваша жизнь
All the same,
сейчас,
because your
если вы
life
живете
now
как
is
неравнодушный
your
человек, а
life
йог,
as a
в
caring
принципе,
person and a
преподаватель йоги
yogi.
должен быть
Basically, a yoga
неравнодушным.
teacher must not be
Равнодушный йог,
indifferent.
он
An
не
indifferent
выживет
yogi
сейчас.
won't survive
Среди
now. There is
преподавателей йоги
also
тоже конкуренция.
competition among the
И
teachers of
неравнодушный йоги,
yoga, and
равнодушный йоги это очень
non-indifferent
быстро, как
sorry,
сказать, ну,
indifferent
гораздо
yogi can
проще
earn money
зарабатывать бабло
easily
где-нибудь
in
в другом
some
месте.
other places
Люди-то
and
очень
people
сильно
feel it
чувствуются
very
обычно так.
well, and accordingly
Поэтому вы
he will make
преподносили. Но
efforts.
суть вот в
But
чем.
the core is
Родители на
that parents
50%
had formed
сформировали
your
ваше
energetic and
энергетическое и
physical
физическое
body.
тело.
It is
Вот все, что
interrelated.
вы будете делать своим телом, частично будет уходить вашим родителям. Это взаимосвязано. Все это
Did you
поняли?
understand this? There are no
И это
practices
отдельно
which
существует. Ну,
exist
вернее,
separately.
существует
No, they
это не для
exist,
вас.
but it's not
То
for
есть есть
you.
там ритуалы,
That
но
is, there are
это как
some
шаманство
rituals
практически. То есть вы
there,
все будете
but it's
связываться.
almost like
Самый
a shamanism. It is better not to deal with this. The most important principle is to live honestly, in harmony with nature, and you will be okay. And your relatives also for many, many kalps ahead, because all they suffered to give birth to you. If you become an adequate person, and you will bear this soundness into the society to make the society healthier? Well, I hope I have motivated all of you. First, I had motivated you with carrot. Now I have shown you the reverse side of reality. Well, on that note, let's go to larvas. Listen, how can we do without them, okay? Oh, as usual, we stayed too long already. Well, I have already told you everything. That's all your passion that you have when you say, I want. Make conscious that someone wants something from you. You are just so much in hassle that you identify it with your desire. All the desires that will rent your energy convert your life energy into the sense. Clear? No? Not clear. And what is not clear? Well, the girl says that it is not clear, so I ask you what is not clear. Have you watched the film Moscow 2017? Have you watched it? Of course. Have you seen how the boy was drowning to that barn? There is such an ocean, larva. Well, listen, it is another story. Well, they suck your life energy according to your karma. Why do I say according to your karma? Desires are, as such, are formed not for a reason. Now, in this life, you are a wonderful wife to your husband. You cook for him, you make him pleasure, you accumulated karma, the karma of service. Listen, I cannot tell you this because you are Vaishya in the majority. Therefore, life according to your laws. If someone will ever go to the teaching course, I will tell you the plain truth. Now live as you live. Indeed, it is impossible to tell you, because you should carry out your duties. But the reason the larvas come to you is in that having accumulated the graduates, for example, of your husband through food, or you can't convert that energy. It remains energy, and then this energy makes you eat or be greedy. This energy of the Manipura chakra that eats you, so to say. If you want to be a good wife, you need to be a good yogini. So you should convert the energy constantly with which you received from him. Well, it sounds awless, but it is the hard truth. For example, if you have a passion for good, if you practice yoga for yourself, then maybe it's not the best wish. But you will say that I have children, husband, relatives, my family. If you want to practice yoga and practice, and if you have a family, at least you practice for them, so to say, they also get a certain benefit, a certain percentage. So practice positively. I like, for example, what I like, in fact, a little, well, I even don't know what I like. When the state I would live to be not, I don't know. I have 2 more days here to say. Then it will be a break for 5 days. And then it will be the teaching course for 19 days, then 10 days of Vipassana, then it will be a break again. I took 2 days off on purpose. The guys were given my lessons, then I come here for these 15 days, so to say 5 days here, 5 days there, 5 days in the Crimea, then I have 5 days off, then 21 days of Tibet with the large group, and it will be very hard time, and then when I come back, The full course will start, and then, well, in short, I'm telling you, as you are there are factors, but you do not understand what it is. Well, in general,
И
it is
поэтому,
not so
как-то вот
easy.
ты живешь из
I'll
года в
tell you
год,
a secret.
тогда
And when you live
это на
like
самом деле
this from
неплохо,
year
поверь.
to year, well,
Зато
it's actually not so bad,
никаких
believe me.
утечек. Вот
But no leaks of
любой
the
грамм
energy.
энергии
Every
сразу в
gram
ноль.
of the energy
Без
goes straight into
максимально
some deed.
эффективная
It is
форма
the
жизни,
most
да.
effective form of the
Вот,
life. It
соответственно,
is another story
по лярвам отдельный
according
писк.
larvas.
Если вам
If you are
мешают страсти, то
prevented by
имейте в
your
виду,
passions,
вы
then keep
можете
in
заниматься
mind you can
йогой,
practice
можете
yoga. You
удовлетворить
can
какую-то страсть.
satisfy some
После
passion.
того, как вы удовлетворите
Once you
страсть, вы
satisfy
идете
your
заниматься уже
passion, you
весной,
can't
пока не
practice yoga
накопите
until you
опять энергии.
accumulated energy. Do you
Понимаете?
understand this? I
И это
will give
хороший
you a good
пример. Если
example.
вы молодой
If
человек и
you a
иногда вы
young man
занимаетесь
and
успехами
sometimes you do
вот
fun
этого
so
уровня,
or on this level,
то, соответственно,
respectively, then
попробуйте
try to
разобраться в
understand
этих
these
утехах, а
pleasures
потом
and
сходите на
then
йогу и
go to a
посмотрите, что
yoga
будет с вашим
class to
телом.
see what happens
В
with your
подавляющем
body.
большинстве
The
ваших тел
vast
это будет
majority of your body
только в
will be
том случае,
stiff
если вы
only
по
in the
своей природе
case that
вампир
you are an energetic
энергетический. То есть
vampire.
если вы
So to say,
со своей
if you
жертвы
take the
забираете
energy
энергию,
from your victim,
тогда вы даже
then
йогой
you will
будете
even
заниматься, и у вас
practice yoga
драйв будет.
and you
То
will
есть,
have a drive.
но
But
опять-таки это
again,
очень
this is a
такая
very dangerous
опасная вещь.
thing
Почему? Потому
because,
что
well, it is bad to be a vampire.
вампиром быть плохо.
I
Просто
just tell you by secret.
случай. А они
Either they
или
burn their
отдавали
life
сейчас и их
now,
прожигают,
or
или
then
потом их
you
будут
will be
сосать, они
sucked
будут
later.
эх, иди, моя дорогая, сглажу с тебя что-нибудь ласково.
Well,
Надеюсь,
I
все.
hope
Какие-то еще вопросы,
that is
дополнения,
all.
комментарии? Да?
Any more questions, additions, comments? Okay.
У
Every
каждого
person has
человека
its own leaks.
есть свои утечки. То есть
That is your
свои
weaknesses
слабые
where
места,
the
куда
energy
вытекает
flows.
энергия.
For
Каждому
everybody
этому
these
слабому месту
weaknesses
существуют
there are
разные
different
практики.
practices. In an
В
absolute
абсолютном
sense,
смысле
there is the most efficient is
вот
what I
самое
have told
эффективное
you.
то, что я вам рассказал.
Load
Загрузите себя
yourself
так, чтобы у вас
so
не
that
было
you have not
свободной
a drop
капли
of
энергии, чтобы у
energy
вас не было
that
ничего,
you
даже что
that you had
тратить.
for nothing,
То
not
есть
even
всегда
to
быть
spend.
даже
So to say,
энергетически
in
в
order to
минусе.
always get your energy,
Тогда у вас
even just
никто
in
ничего не
some
сможет взять. Вы
minus,
все в дело
then
вкладываете
nobody can
максимально
take
эффективно.
something from you.
Но
You
если у вас пока
invest
нет
effectively
возможности
all your energy into the good
эффективно
things.
как бы
To live
жить,
productively, you have to understand at what
осознаете, на
level
каком
you have a
уровне у
problem and
вас
apply
проблемы,
diametrically
и
opposite
прикладывать
efforts.
диаметрально противоположные усилия.
Now,
Я
in
вкратце
short,
сейчас
I tell you
пройдусь
about
по
chakras
чакрам,
in
чтобы
order
было
for you to
более-менее понятно.
understand it
Если
more or less.
возникает гнев,
If anger
чего лучше
arises,
применить?
how can it be treated?
Терпение. Сядьте
Patience.
в любую
Sit in
стабильную асану,
any stable
посидите,
asana, sit
поплачьте.
and
Если
weep.
вы будете
If you
чувствовать
feel
боль
pain,
регулярно от
if you
своего гнева,
regularly feel
у
pain
вас
from your
с
body,
гневом
you
проблем не
have
будет.
no
То
problems
есть
with
вся
your
боль, она
anger.
через боль выходит
All
очень
your
хорошо.
foolishness
Именно
will
такого
go
быстрого
away.
уровня, как
It will
тот же
go
самый
away
гнев.
through the pain.
Если у вас
That
похоть
is
возникает, чем
such a
длится это?
low level, the same as anger. If you
Ну,
have
по-разному на
lust,
самом деле.
how can it be
Для
treated?
смерда это
Well,
одно,
in
для веса
different ways,
другое, для витязя
actually.
третье, для волка
Smart
четвертое.
is one thing
Весе
for
скажут, он
Vesya,
все равно
the
занимается,
another, for
смотрит и скажет,
Kshatri,
да
the
ты
third, for the
тренер в
Brahman,
броне.
the fourth one.
А еще
Vesya
лучше
will be
тренер
said that he
в
can't
шипучей
practice yoga,
трехлетки.
give
То
birth
есть
to the
главное, чтобы был
child,
процесс
and even
от и
better to
до, и
three.
поверь,
All the
произведет
lust
очень
will go
быстро.
away.
Витязи
I mean the
скажут, ну
main
Витязь, вы, в
thing that
принципе,
you
могут стать
see
там
the
практикой
process
позаниматься,
from the beginning to the
может быть.
end. And trust me, you
А?
sober up
Да, там
quickly.
5
The
километров
night will be
пробежишь с
set
препятствиями,
to
там, или
make
там
some
еще что-нибудь такое
practices.
физическое, например.
Yes,
Это уже
yes, run
очень хорошая
5
вещь.
kilometers with
Волхву,
obstacles, or
соответственно,
is there
но
something physical or do something physical, for example,
сложная
it
тема.
is a very good healing. For sorcery
В
accordingly,
общем,
well, it is a difficult topic.
есть
Well,
такая
in general,
концепция,
there
что
are
часто
some
выехать
methods.
на
There is a
энергетическом
concept
уровне
that often
жизни
lasts
этого
on the
человека.
energetic
Для
level
того, чтобы
is
эту
in the man,
энергетическую
and to
похоть
remove this
решить,
passion, you should clean the
нужно очищать
bowel.
кишечник.
There are different
Есть
methods
разные
of
методики
bowel
очищения
cleaning
кишечника, чтобы
of
не было
meat.
мяса.
Well, not
Ой,
only
ну
meat,
мясо это
but
тоже,
also
чтобы
all
у
the
вас не было
products of meat. I mean to have
производных от
no
мяса, не было
toxins.
шлаков, я имею в
Meat
виду.
is the cause of
Мясо очень сильно
toxins.
засохло.
Who
Кто не верит,
doesn't believe
вчерашний,
watch,
позавчерашний фильм
please,
или вчерашний,
yesterday's
вчерашний
film?
фильм
Who
посмотрите.
didn't
Кто
watch?
не
Ask
смотрел, у Володи
Volodya
Васильева
Vasilyev
можно
to
скачать,
download.
обращать внимание,
Ask
очень
him. It
хорошая
is a
лекция,
very
очень
good
все
lecture
подробно
that explains
объясняется, почему
everything.
это
They are a lot most luckily,
нарисовано.
but in
Кто
Russian
знает
language,
английский,
probably very few
переводите,
people who know
распространяйте.
English translate and share this. A
Сейчас,
moment, please.
секундочку, поэтому
Therefore, clean the
очищение
bowels.
будет
There will
меньше
be
проблем.
fewer
Мясо очень
problems.
сильно влияет,
Meat
это по
can be
факту.
a major
Если вы
factor.
ищете из
It is
мяса,
in
но только не
fact
сразу.
so.
Если вы
Avoid
вот
meat,
перестали
but not
вчера есть
immediately,
мясо, то не
because
факт,
if you
что сегодня
stop
у вас все
just
будет нормально.
yesterday
Вам
to
нужно
eat meat,
некоторое время
it's not the
полностью
fact that
уничтожить
today you will
бактерии,
be
которые в
fine.
вас живут.
You need some time to completely replace the bacteria that live in your
Ну,
body.
соответственно,
Well,
манипура
accordingly,
чакра,
the Manipura chakra. I have
я уже
already
говорил,
said,
учитесь жертвовать,
learn to sacrifice,
делайте
do
благие дела,
good
бескорыстное
things,
какое-то служение,
unselfish
учитесь
serving.
делать.
Learn how
Учитесь
to do
отдавать.
good
Не
things, so to
привыкшите к
say,
себе,
learn
как
to
с
give all
рождения. Ребенок
things you have,
рождается, к
not
себе,
to pull
а учтите
everything for
отдавать.
yourself as a child
Тоже
who is
поможет
born
манипура
wants
чакра.
everything for himself. Learn to
Анахата
give
чакра,
all things.
сердечность, вот этот
It will
лойк,
also help to
быть мир
overcome the
люблю, это хорошо с
Manipura
одной стороны,
chakra.
это гораздо лучше, чем
Anahata
жрать,
chakra,
извините за
warmth.
выражение.
Well, to love the whole world is better than to eat or to
Не
spend your
потребно
time for
проводить время
nothing
или
or be
гневаться.
angry. But nevertheless,
Молчание– это
it
тоже
is
очень
also
эффективно.
the energy
Человек, который
leaking.
любит, он
A man
глуп.
who loves is
Он
a
глупый,
fool
его
because
разводят.
he is
Вы
cheated.
все хорошие
You are
люди.
all good
Ну а
men.
что ж тогда
Well,
проценты
so
или кредит
why
вы
do you
берете?
take loans?
Фигней всякой
Just do
занимаетесь.
nothing, watch
Смотрите
TV, and do
телевизор
the
там
other
и
useless
много
things.
еще есть что сделать,
Because you are
чем вас
used,
используют.
but you are all
Но вы все
good,
хорошие, добрые,
kind, and
любящие
warm
люди.
people.
О
What
чем это
does it
говорит? Пока
mean?
у вас на
While
уровне
you have your
сердечной чакры
energy
будет
at the
энергия,
level of
вы не
the
будете
heart of
понимать
Anahata
то,
chakra,
что
you
находится
will
выше.
not understand
Только
what
если вы
is
освободитесь
about.
от своей любви,
Only
вы
if you
сможете
are
сверху
free from
поставить
your love,
многие вещи
you will
понять
be
по-другому.
able to see many things to understand
Но если вы
what is
хотите
going on
хотя бы
around. But
преодолеть
if
эти
you
три
want at
проблемы,
least to
любовь– это
overcome
уже
these
очень
three
хорошо.
problems,
Но для
love
того,
is
чтобы пойти
already a
выше, от
very
нее
good
тоже нужно
thing.
будет отказаться.
But
Это
to
не
go
значит, что вы
above it,
будете
you will
там
have
вести
to
дела
leave
дамы
this
помогают.
level.
Это
It
что?
doesn't mean that
Как
you
вы
will
сказали,
be
не холодно,
cold
как
or senseless, as one
это надо
lady had
значит
said.
такое, типа,
No, you won't be
да,
indifferent.
вот так мягко
Yes,
сказали
indifferent
прям.
anyway,
Не
right?
помню, что сказали.
Not quite
Ну,
cold.
что, да,
If you need to
безразлично.
go down, you can always go down to hug your beloved and
Отмороженным,
show your
короче, да?
feelings, but then
Не совсем
return to be
отмороженным.
adequate.
Если вам нужно сверху спуститься вниз, вы всегда спуститесь, обнимите свою
Well,
любимую
in
там, или
short,
любимого и
Vishuddha
проявите
chakra
свои
is a
чувства. Но потом вернитесь
hundred
обратно,
times
все будет
better
нормально.
than Anahata. I love Vishuddha people.
Но,
They are real.
в
He
общем,
said
короче,
he did.
Вишудха чакра
It is cool to
в 100
deal
раз
with them
лучше, чем
because
анахата. Я очень люблю Вишудху. Они
all that
конкретные.
I was said
Сказал,
previously were
сделал.
just tears
Вот
and
так
weepies.
с ними
You know,
классно.
the
А эти все
circumstances have
сопли
changed, they
сказал,
say,
ну ты
they could
понимаешь,
say, and they
изменились
begin to tell you
обстоятельства,
something
и ты
strange.
начинаешь
Well,
петь
it is
какую-то
terrible.
песню,
And
говоришь о
those who
своих
are
ужас
below, they're
просто.
like animals. So
Они же это
I
вообще
like
животные
Vishuddha people
находятся.
very, very much.
Поэтому я вот как бы их очень люблю.